Hello and welcome to this very special preview episode of what you can get over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. This is our WrestleTalk extra episode reviewing TNA Genesis 2006, which is the first in our second series we've done over on Patreon, where we're looking at TNA's greatest rivalry, Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle.
TNA, but not just Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle. Tell me about that sweet, sweet nonsense.
So we started this series and we were like, oh yeah, we'll do Joe versus Angle. That will be our series run. So we do Genesis 06, we then do Turning Point 06, Final Resolution 2007. Then it's Hard Justice, not Hardcore Justice like I kept calling it, Hard Justice 2007. And then our final episode will be Lockdown 2008. What we accidentally also fell into is we are chronicling VKM, the Voodoo Kin Mafia, which was when WWE were doing their DX stuff. The Road Dogg Jesse James and the badass Billy Gunn in TNA as the James Gang renamed themselves to VKM, the Voodoo Kin Mafia, or Vincent Kennedy McMahon, to call out DX and Michael Hickenbottom, Paul Levesque, and calling them out on weekly TV. We actually get to chronicle the whole thing because the last episode, which is now available over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk, is the culmination of that story, which is BG versus Kip in Lockdown.
And they also, in case you missed that, they were trying to get Triple H, Vince McMahon, and Shawn Michaels to have a shoot fight with them, and TNA was going to pay Vince McMahon
So emotional talking about it.
TNA was going to pay Vince McMahon $1 million to make that happen.
Yeah, so we hope that you enjoy this look at Genesis 06. It's been so much fun to revisit the madness. Because not only is this Angle versus Joe, which is a huge thing, it is TNA's best pay-per-view buy rates, pretty much until they do the comeback show, Hard to Kill, in 2004, January of 2024. But this is also when Vince Russo comes back into TNA and he Russifies the product a lot. It's Kurt Angle coming in, not liking Chris Sabin's hair. And there's so much that we get started. There's that punk Chris Sabin and his disrespect to Jerry Lynn. It's been so much fun to revisit all of this. I've thoroughly enjoyed this little run through. So here it is. It's about 3 and a bit hours, nearly 4 hours, I think, in total, of us reviewing TNA Genesis 2006 in full. And you can head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to watch all of the other episodes. And you can see our other series that we did, where we chronicled the breakup of the Shield in WWE throughout 2014. So here it is. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Enjoy.
TNA, we are wrestling.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
TNA Wrestling presents Genesis.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of the new series of WrestleTalk Extra. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luco and DAD. And now we've got you through the paywall door. We're finally doing it, Luke. After all of these years of talking about inferior WWE or good WWE or terrible AEW, we can finally talk about the greatest period in wrestling history.
Oh, yeah.
2005 to 2009 TNA.
So, you and I have done some TNA shows in the WrestleTalk Extra archives. You can go and check them out. They're over on Patreon right now. However, every single time we've reviewed a TNA show, we've always said, but this isn't the real TNA, though. This isn't proper TNA. We've not done a proper TNA show. With the exception, I think, of Bound for Glory 2010, because that at least was their era Bound for Glory TNA.
But it was Hogan and Bischoff era
it's
TNA.
It's not proper TNA.
It's not the TNA I grew up on.
Exactly. Yes.
It's the TNA that killed me watching.
I mean, I can actually give you a little deep dive into what we're going to be doing coming up for this series. There's going to be a 5-episode series as opposed to a 7-episode one like we did for the breakup of the Shield. We're starting today with TNA Genesis 2006. Our next episode will be Turning Point 2006. Then it will be Final Resolution 2007. Then we will be jumping to Hard Justice 2007 and then ending with Lockdown 2008.
Oh, just hearing some of those pay-per-view names reminds me of going through HMV's sports DVD section. Going, oh, yeah, Best of Jeff Jarrett and Hard Justice 08, yeah. Oh.
And these are the first 5 Angle versus Joe matches on pay-per-view.
Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe.
It's TNA's greatest rivalry. It is inarguably TNA's greatest rivalry because this is the one that has done them the most box office pay-per-view buy rates. In fact, actually, the pay-per-view we're going to look at today was, for a time, TNA's best performing pay-per-view ever. It did like 60,000 buys. For comparison, TNA's Hard to Kill, that aired this year, was considered a tremendous success. That did 20,000 buys.
Yeah.
This did 3 times more than that. This is TNA's biggest period financially for them.
And they're also in that era of Spike TV, where Spike has the Ultimate Fighter.
Yep, they've just gone to prime time.
And they're using that sort of building interest in MMA and the realism that it provides in contrast to the very stale, very soap opera style of WWE to essentially build a big MMA fight between Joe and Kurt.
Yeah. And this is a big time for TNA. You know, they've done like their big announcements and stuff. The signing of Kurt Angle came at the end of 2 pay-per-views previous to where we are in Genesis. So it was the end of No Surrender. Jim Cornette said, we're going to have a major announcement for this show. And they kept this very, very quiet. Now it's going to be airing from 9 till 11 on Spike with the UFC as the lead-in going into it. But then he says, but that's not the real announcement. Here is the real announcement. And they play a video of Kurt Angle.
Wow.
Signing with TNA. And he throws up his head and he goes, it's real. It's damn real.
I have seen that video.
Yeah. And
Jim Cornette, by the way, is the on-screen authority figure at the time.
Yep.
Is he booking anything behind the scenes?
No, because we'll get into another announcement very, very shortly. But yeah, this was a huge deal. Let's talk about where you were. 2006. It is November. We're looking at September, October, November time, 2006. Whereabouts are you in the Ollie Davis life story?
I'm not a wrestling fan anymore. I'll tell you that much. So I had just gone to university. September 06 was my freshers week. That's, first year of uni, started there in halls. And it was in halls where across the halls from me was Kedeman Dan. And Kedeman Dan, who texts me as we're recording this yesterday morning at some stupid hour going, Zach! I was like, what?
Because he won the G1.
Yeah. And then I read later, oh, Zach's won the G1. Okay, yeah, I guess you're watching that. Hadn't heard from him for 2 months before then. Anyway, Kedeman Dan is across my halls. And every now and then, I walk in on him and he's watching wrestling. He's watching what I now know as Ring of Honor or a bit of TNA or some WWE things. He'll claim he wasn't, but he was a big John Cena fan. Mm-hmm. And now he's just like gaslighting me like that was never a thing.
Okay, here's a fun little fact for you, actually. So we'll come on to the reason why we were going into this a little bit later. Pete was looking at his old WrestleZone forum posts that he was making, like
Pete
Quinnell from a decade plus or so ago. It's like sort of 2010, 2011 time. He made a post on there where he said, I don't know why people are so mad about The Miz being a WWE champion. He was a really credible WWE champion. He was great in the ring, great on the mic. If Daniel Bryan wins the WWE title, I won't take it seriously.
Oh, Pete. Hey, we all probably said some stupid stuff back in the past.
I hope that doesn't come up on this show.
So, at this time I was not watching wrestling, but I was being drip fed wrestling and increasingly hanging out with other people. Because, you know, wrestling fans, if you're at work or if you're at uni or you meet another group of friends, you clock who's the wrestling fans, and then you form this sort of secret society who watch it. Particularly because wrestling was nowhere near as popular 20 years ago as it is now.
Oh, uncool in 2006.
So
uncool.
There's no YouTube scene of all these British guys with
saving
their
the wrestling industry.
Yeah.
You're welcome, WWE, for us saving you.
And MJF. Yeah. And yeah, it was just like you did most of that interaction in person or just completely face this on forum posts.
Which is what a lot of mine was, because 2004 is when I went to university. So summer of 2004 is when I went for my first year. And my housemates, because I didn't go into halls of residence, I applied too late to get into university. So I got accepted too late, which means I didn't get a hall of residence place. So I had to go for a weekend, or a Friday night at my university that I was going to, with everyone else who was in the same situation as me, get drunk with them, then wake up the following morning, try and remember who I'd met, and then get a house with them.
Yes.
And so you met them on the Friday night, you got a house with them on the Saturday morning. And that was the way that it worked. So I met...
Well, you just read up on that? That's the way to do it?
That's what we're told to do. Like that. This was arranged by the university.
Oh my God, that seems...
Yeah.
That seems optimistic.
Oh, yeah, and it didn't work. Because we had, like, a group of 10 of us that sort of, like, all, like, got together and stuff. And on the morning, 8 of us showed up. And so we were like, great, that's fine. Maybe we'll split off into 4 and 4, and that'll be an easy way to find the house. And then 5 of them went... Oh, no, it was, 7 of them showed up. And then 5 of them went, oh, yeah, we're off now. We're going to go find a place. And just left the 2 of us there.
No.
So me and this guy named Kel. And you can't find houses, student accommodation that's only got 2 rooms.
No.
They don't do them. It's like 3 and up. So we were like, oh, fuck, what we're going to do? And he just went like, I'm going to go and get a map. Because this is all, this is also pre-Google Map days. This is like pre-smartphone days, really.
A physical map.
We had to go and buy a physical map because there was like...
Fold out.
This is pre-smartphones. So that's how old I am. Rotary phones were still a thing. It's not that.
Well, on the Genesis pay-per-view, when Kurt goes near the crowd, you can see loads of flip phones come out and people are trying to take pictures.
Yeah, crappy little...
And you just know that is going to be a really bad resolution.
Yeah, and they're trying to send it via WAP to email.
.3v files.
So he went and he came back and he was like, I found us 3 guys who were looking for 2 people. And I was like, no way. And he was like, yeah.
On the map? What sort of a map was this?
Well, he just bumped into someone. He was wearing a Portsmouth football shirt, and he bumped into someone who was also wearing a Portsmouth football shirt, and they were like, oh, we're looking for 2 people. And he was like, great, I know a guy. And that's how I met, like, that was my house. But that guy, Kel, became my gateway back into wrestling. Because he remained being a wrestling fan. He didn't quit in 2002 like the rest of us cowards.
Before you met cowards or... Did we just have good taste? Because 01, 02 onwards, I know some people hold it dear to their heart.
That's nostalgia talking. That's people who say that Attack of the Clones is a good movie.
For a 15, 16-year-old, not cool anymore. Kel,
yeah.
Before you met Kel, did you know adults watched wrestling?
To a degree, yes, because there was the guy that I worked with at Sainsbury's who was still watching wrestling. He was the one that told me the proper Undertaker was coming back, and he was the one who told me that John Cena was really cool. So knew not to trust him.
Because I now, like before, Dan was almost like shamefully watching it. He didn't broadcast it to people. I would walk in on him watching it. I'd be like, I've caught him masturbating to the worst porn ever. No. Are you watching wrestling? No,
I'm watching the X-Files.
No, I'm watching hardcore porn. And it was just, I didn't know that was a thing that people past being a teenager were into.
Yeah, for me, it was more what was happening outside of WWE.
Well, I also had no idea there was anything else other than WWE. I'd watched WCW and I'd watched a bit of ECW when I was a kid, but I knew those both died.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because I watched The Invasion. I saw them both get killed at Survivor Series 01. So Kel was a big WWE kid. So he had like DVDs of all the pay-per-views that I'd missed while I was gone. But my other housemate was also a wrestling fan, but he didn't really like WWE. He liked Ring of Honor, CZW, TNA. So he got me into that. So me and him used to go to FWA shows in Portsmouth because the Academy was down there. So I used to go see AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels and Jody Fleisch and people like that do the small indies.
In 06? Like, would it have been around this time, 05?
Yeah, 2005, 2006.
Wow.
We used to go to those shows. Doug Williams, doing all those sorts of things. Johnny Storm. And then, the Human Torch. And then we would buy DVDs from there and take them back. And most of the times those DVDs didn't work because they were made by small British independents who don't know how to press DVDs properly. So you'd be like, it's really skippy. So the best way to do it is actually to put it into a PC, rip the file from the DVD, and then watch it through VLC media player.
VLC solved so many issues back in the day.
So many problems. Oh, I've downloaded this episode of Lost, but it won't play on anything. Aha.
VLC.
So that was my gateway into it. And then in 2005, I went through a bad breakup. A girl broke up with me. My longtime girlfriend had broken up with me. And my housemate, Kel, said, hey, do you want to come watch Royal Rumble 2005? And we went there, and that was pretty much, I've been watching wrestling ever since. But it was in that period of time, late 04 into 2005, that my other housemate lent me a TNA DVD. And it was one of their first shows. It was Victory Road 04. And I just fell in love with it, partly because Raven was there.
Yeah, of course.
So Raven was kind of like my gateway into TNA, but then TNA became my wrestling home because I thought WWE sucked. I thought this DX thing was rubbish. The Spirit Squad sucked. The Highlanders suck. This John Cena sucks. Kurt Angle's now gone, so he was one of the only good things that was there. Christian's left. I just thought it sucked. But TNA was, I discovered, my style of wrestling. Until, Vince Russo came in and was like, bro, we should just do what we did with WCW in 2000 because it was a big success for us. And that's, I kind of sort of weathered the storm through it.
I didn't get into any of Ring of Honor and stuff until much later. In fact, I'd sometimes reference this guy. I didn't really know him, but he was the guy who told me CM Punk was good in 08, 09. I was like, what? This guy? No, what are you talking about? He was at the show that we went to, the Rev Pro show.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him. He's a really tall guy and he's quite distinctive looking. And I've never said hi to him. I don't think he doesn't know who I am, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like, oh, you're the first guy to have defended CM Punk. But yeah, I didn't know enough about WWE to know if it was bad or not. I just knew, well, Dan's watching this TNA. I didn't even know I thought TNA Ring of Honor were the same thing. It wasn't until the next year in September 07 when I moved in with Dan and we had a house and a TV and Virgin Media or whatever it was to get more channels.
To get the wrestling channel.
Yeah, not the wrestling channel, but we had Bravo.
Oh, cool.
And it just became very quickly, Dan would, it's 9:00 Friday night. We're going to go out to the Bop, which was the University Friday night club night. And he'd put that on and we'd probably watch a few YouTube videos first. Then we'd start watching TNA and then we'd go out about 11.
Yeah.
And that's how I slowly got acclimatized into it, which is exactly how I got into WWE as a teenager. I didn't set out to get into wrestling. It was just on after Soccer AF. And I was like, okay, whatever. It's how I got into snooker. It was on after it replaced Buffy, and I was too stubborn to change my viewing habits.
So in this period of time here, you're not watching TNA, so you're not across this Kurt Angle going what a big deal that this
No
was.
idea any of this is happening.
So because this is also the year prior to this, 2005, is when I get into what is now considered to be the IWC. And I start going onto wrestling websites that are essentially just copy and pasting what's in the Observer newsletter. And I start to learn the name of Dave Meltzer, Brian Alvarez, and after a while became a subscriber to the Wrestling Observer.
I wouldn't know dirt sheets existed until about 09, 2010. And even then, it wasn't really dirt sheets. I was listening to Solomonster.
Yeah.
And Solomonster wasn't a reporter or anything. He would mostly review the shows, but occasionally he would say, oh, there's this, this story's happened. This story's happened behind the scenes. I'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
How do they find these out? And then Colt Cabana's podcast and then Progress and Ring of Honor. Because by 2010, to get the Ring of Honor shows, to sort of feed my wrestling habit, I needed to go to parts of the internet that would also suck you in with, oh, this story.
Yeah. So I was also part of the forum scene. So the Smart Marks was that was my home away from home. I spent a lot of my uni time just scrolling the Smart Marks, just interacting with other wrestling fans across the world. And
we've got some today.
It may come up in this. I've got in time thoughts of Luke Owen from this period of time about this show.
Excellent.
And my thoughts on it. So we'll see if they've changed.
Like Pete's defense of The Miz and how bad Daniel Bryan is.
Exactly.
Look at the size of this Daniel Bryan guy. Who was Pete? Michael Cole.
He's a rookie. Yeah. There's a reason why Miz is the pro.
Are you more embarrassed by these posts than you were showing MJF our musical rendition?
Yes.
Because that was deeply uncomfortable.
Dan said to me yesterday, Dan Layton said to me yesterday, when Brian Alvarez is in studio are you going to play him, you calling into Figure 4? And I was like, absolutely not. No way am I going to do that. But anyway, this Kurt Angle thing to TNA was massive. He had been fired by WWE, and then he shows up in TNA. At this point, TNA is, it's an underground.
Huge.
It's an underground promotion. It's not underground. It's just like it's on TV, but it's not getting huge ratings or anything like that. It's doing okay. It is the biggest competition to WWE, but it is a distant second. But this was like, oh man, Christian going across was pretty big, but that's Christian, it's mid-card Christian.
Sting's there?
Sting is there, but Sting had never gone to WWE. This is just like, oh, he's an old legend. And he just proved not to be like a huge needle mover for TNA when he went across. But this is Kurt Angle. He has left WWE and gone to the competition. This is akin to Moxley, almost in a way, going across to All Elite Wrestling. But it was slightly more controversial because Angle had been fired by WWE.
Oh, that's not what he said on TV.
Yeah, he said something slightly different, but basically at the time was he'd got fired by WWE. I've got, Brian Alvarez's write-up of this is kind of legendary. He had this huge rant on the Brian and Vinny show about TNA bringing him in. And I've got the written up version of it here. Just TNA's biggest announcement in the history of ever. The announcement that would rewrite the history of the business ended up being a big one. They signed Kurt Angle. Oh yes. Days after he was fired, the feeling from people I talked to in WWE was that he was going to go to TNA or Japan. Shortly thereafter, Angle told others that he had no interest in TNA for a variety of reasons, but was considering going to MMA. His signing is one of the biggest secrets in wrestling in the last decade. Approximately 7 people knew and all seemed signed legit confidentiality deals. Many who arguably should have known, including at the time head booker Scott D'Amore, were kept in the dark. Lots of people were very upset about this. They didn't even bring him to the building, instead choosing to debut on a show-closing video package that was filmed in an empty warehouse in Nashville the previous Friday. They silenced the crowd audio when it was airing on the pay-per-view, which is probably a mistake because the reaction in the building was unlike anything you've heard at a TNA show. I'm not sure what TNA thought the public reaction would be at this announcement, but at least on our website, it was largely, almost universally negative.
Whoa, I wasn't expecting that.
Because TNA jumped at the opportunity to sign a guy that WWE fired because of drug issues.
Yeah.
I've heard every counter-argument there is. WWE hired Jeff Hardy, who TNA fired for drug issues. Angle doesn't have recreational drug problems like Eddie Guerrero or Brian Pillman. It is merely a pain pill issue. Angle would be better in TNA with a light schedule than in MMA, where he could basically get injured, and so on and so forth. World Wrestling Entertainment fired Kurt Angle because he had drug issues. I don't think some people understand the gravity of that statement. This was not WWE seeing Angle was in pretty bad shape and refusing to go to rehab. This was a situation where he was not going to handle the problems, and they were afraid that he was going to die, perhaps very soon, under their watch. As I wrote several weeks back, when he was fired, a number of people in WWE stated the exact same thing, that he was the worst anyone had ever seen. Worse than Shawn Michaels at his peak, and worse than Brian Pillman, who did die due to his issues. Angle's behavior in the final weeks prior to his firing was said to be incredibly worrisome, from dozens and dozens of text messages sent to creative every day to major paranoia to major mood swings backstage. WWE at one point had to hire handlers to get him into buildings since he was unable to do this on his own. There were people who looked at the other way for a while, since as bad as he was outside the ring, he was fine once the bell rang. And then, during an ECW show, he dropped Rob Van Dam on his head and nearly hurt him seriously. There were times when he had to be taken through airports in a wheelchair, and 2 separate WWE sources stated very explicitly their belief was that he had serious mental health issues. Everything finally came to a head on that Friday afternoon 4 weeks ago, and WWE fired him. And TNA pretty much immediately began their quest to sign him.
That's the TNA I know and love.
That's exactly it. And I went back and I looked at the Smart Marks forums. It's all universally negative on there as well. A lot of people are like, this is actually quite a worrying sign that TNA was so quick to try and like bring him in.
I mean, yeah. We know that now as adults. Back then, I mean, I just didn't know any of this stuff was happening.
No.
I was like,
I only knew because I was already in the bubble.
Yeah, but you knew that Kurt had been fired.
Yes.
Obviously, when I say I didn't know any of this stuff was happening, I'm talking about this almost a year after, and I go back and watch a lot of the old pay-per-views and the big feuds. But were you excited?
I was, only because I was excited by this. And my reasoning for it was less of the drug issue thing. I don't think I ever really... I guess I was a naive 20-year-old, so I wasn't just like, oh, it's a really serious drug thing. I was more like, I love TNA, and I want TNA to succeed.
By any means
necessary. I wanted to see TNA do well.
Yeah.
So I was just excited about like what this could possibly mean. And then when they do the debut angle with him and Samoa Joe, seeing so many people I went back and looked at the forum post. There's like the TNA thread has never had this much traffic because people were jumping across the forums to be like, let's talk about this.
In a positive way?
In a positive way, because people really like the debut angle. Yeah. I think once the angle happened and once the matches happened, a lot of this talk started to die down. And it then just became a case of, well, he hasn't actually pulled in any new viewers. And it hasn't translated into the needle moving that everyone thought it would do, which is amazing how conversations in wrestling do not change.
I was going to say, Luke, I think we've started playing audio from an AEW podcast rather than you actually speaking. Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? Because the naive 20-year-olds, I think that's a part of it, but also different times. That's 20 years ago.
This is pre-Benoit.
This is let's all hit each other in the head with chairs still.
Yeah.
There wasn't that sort of awareness culturally. Obviously Alvarez is because, and that audience are because they're more concerned about that stuff. But at the time, that's it. And since then, thankfully, everyone has raise their standards a lot more. But you do still see it, because when Jeff Hardy did go to AEW, I was very down on it. I think it's pretty similar scenario. Worrying behavior.
Erratic.
WWE, I can't remember, did they release him?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. And
he walked out of a house show during a match.
Yeah, and then he shows up in AEW. I don't think this is a good idea. But there were people being like, well, it's Jeff Hardy, this is a great idea. Stop being down on it. I want AEW to... This is a good thing for AEW. And that, I've never actually thought about that. That is blind, dangerous tribalism.
So when I talk about the tribalism that we see now with WWE and AEW, the reason why I talk about it so kind of openly and stuff is because I see myself in it. Because I was that tribalistic guy. I can transport my mind back nearly 20 years ago to when I was a naive 20-year-old and be like, that's how I felt about TNA. So I know there is tribalism, and I look at my post now and I'm like, you don't believe a lot of the things you're saying here. You're trying to, you're just saying things. But also within that, I'm also openly being like, oh no, I actually think that this is rubbish. Like I think some of this, because you're trying to hide your tribalism. It is quite transparent. And when I see it, I was like, oh, I see patterns in comments that get left on our videos and in our live chats and in our ultra chats that I see in the comments I used to make 20 years ago on forums.
And I will say, there's no text evidence, I believe, online of me being like that. But in the lead up to January 2010, January 4th, and TNA was going head-to-head to WWE, I was like, WWE must die. It is better if WWE goes out of business and TNA crushes them.
And it's amazing to look back at that bit of time as well, because that, again, WWE Tribalists was like, they never considered them competitions. Yeah, they just counter-programmed Bret Hart to come back and shake hands with Shawn Michaels. Just so happened to do that on that episode of Monday Night Raw. Sure, they just happened to book a house show down the road from AEW's pay-per-view location in December. These things just happen, I guess.
Florida's our home base. It makes sense.
I guess it's not really competition at all. Anyway, here's the other bit of news.
Okay.
The other big news, and in some ways, in the grand scheme of things, this may rank up there with the signing of Kurt Angle. Bear with me. They brought in Vince Russo as the new head booker.
Bro. So how much was he doing for TNA before this point? Nothing.
He'd gone. He was there.
It was Scott D'Amore who was
He was
booking.
there in the early days. He was there in the Fairgrounds days.
With Jeff Jarrett.
Jeff Jarrett, because he came in, he was an on-screen character. He was the leader of
Yes, I've seen those.
Sports Entertainment Extreme.
Didn't he play like Mr. Wrestling 20 or something as well?
I can't remember that. But he was like, him and AJ Styles were Sports Entertainment Extreme, SEX, as this...
Not the worst name we'll hear on this show.
But yeah, Vince Russo left and is now, he swore off wrestling. He was doing all these shoot interviews, which I used to listen to, being like, bro, I will never go back to wrestling. It is a dirty industry, bro. I will never go back. And he's come back to wrestling.
He's a good talker. But wasn't that when he became a born-again Christian
That
as
is
well?
the born-again Christian era.
And then he was, I guess he was a born-again wrestling promoter.
He was. I was told specifically that Bob Carter was losing patience because despite what some people might say, they're not making any money, and this was an emergency move on the part of Dixie Carter, who wasn't around during the late 90s, and is a huge fan of Russo based on the resume he provides folks. Clearly, the current writing crew needed a shake-up because it was basically the same old every single week, and ratings weren't even staying steady but slowly dropping. With that said, if I needed to shake up a writing crew, the last person I would hire would be Vince Russo, particularly when there are plenty of guys out there with more of a clue that would never been given a chance.
I mean, Paul Heyman was just about to get fired later that year.
He gets fired in December, yes.
Yeah.
Literally the next month in our timeline, Paul Heyman gets fired by WWE.
That was always the big thing. I was like, just bring in Jim Ross and Paul Heyman and TNA will be okay.
It's the usual tale that you've heard 100 times. This is a new Russo. He's learned some lessons. He's changed, blah, blah, blah. We shall see. To me, if the guy has really changed, every single solitary interview he's ever done wouldn't consist of him defending all of his wacky ideas and not admitting to one single mistake. Russo, despite claiming in interview after interview he was done with wrestling and for sure was never coming back to TNA, has actually been trying to get in since at least last March. In fact,
It's the Shane McMahon thing. Just take a couple of meetings.
In fact, 6 months ago, the rumor started, he was quick to shoot them down. He claimed many times he will never work with a committee, that he'll be working with one here. It'll be a smaller committee, though he's been, as they demoted Mike Tenay, who is now just a strictly on-screen announcer, Scott D'Amore, who will stay in a to-be-yet-created new capacity, and Jeremy Borash, staying on as an interviewer, Jeff Jarrett and Dutch Mantell are still on the team. That tells you all you need to know. So the created team now is Russo, Jarrett, Dutch Mantell.
And it was Jarrett, Mantell, JB, Tenay, and Scott D'Amore?
And Scott D'Amore. Scott D'Amore was head booker prior to this. And like that was, I think, a lot of people's kind of favorite. Like that 2004, late 2004 when it started going to pay-per-view, and early 2005, actually all through 2005, people do look back on that very fondly. Some of it is same old of TNA, and the TV is just like an hour show and it's just a little bit of wrestling and a few angles here and there. Bit NXT in a way. But people did like that it was just a cool alternative product. But man, you watch this show compared to, say, the two previous pay-per-views, it is night and day when Russo comes into book, because all of a sudden it's Voodoo Kin Mafia, it's LAX going up against America, and it's all these, it's Paparazzi Productions. Like that's all Vince Russo coming in, and his thing of like, you X Division guys don't have any personalities, we need to give you characters.
Which, and I don't do this often, is one of Russo's strengths. Because while all of his ideas aren't good, he at least gives everyone an idea.
Yeah, he has something to do for everyone.
If you've got a filtration system where you're like, not that idea, come back with something else, you know, that mid-card and even the undercard of WWF in the Attitude Era so many colourful characters, all with their own blood feuds or little comedy storylines.
And because Vince at that time, at least according to what Russo will tell you in those shoot interviews when he was in them with Ed Ferrara, was Vince didn't care what the undercard was doing. He would just come into meetings and be like, what's Austin doing this week? And that's all he cared about. So Vince Russo and Ed, when they were writing the shows, were just like, well, we'll figure out the rest of the show then. Like, we will just book the undercard and give them something to do.
Yeah, because, like, the VKM stuff, well... God.
I defended it on the forums.
No!
I did. I defended it on the forums.
I think I can speculate on the take you had. But stuff like the Kevin Nash, X Division, Alex Shelley, Austin Aries, who I didn't recognize for about half the match. it's called Austin Starr. That is actually, for me, top tier TNA.
Looking back on it, I'm enjoying it more than I think I did at the time, because I think I was under the sort of the forum influence this is bad for the X Division. And what we wanted to see is these good wrestlers do good wrestling, which I do agree with. But there is part I was watching, I was like, it is quite entertaining though. And Shelley's really good here. And actually, Aries is really good in this role as well. And also, I'd been brainwashed by Kevin Nash. I was being worked by Kevin Nash so much, and I was not alone.
Scott Steiner is famous for being the patron saint of WrestleTalk Extra. I'm going to make an argument that Kevin Nash should be his joint patron saint here. Patreon saint. We've never thought of that. The Patreon saint of WrestleTalk.
Kevin Nash is glorious in this period of time, because I now see it for what it is. And I was just being worked at the time. And I was not alone. The forums were all being worked by Kevin Nash at the time. But anyway, let's talk about some of the TV that's led us to this point. So one of the things that we did watch was Kurt Angle's actual in-ring debut segments, where he wasn't brought in for the first set of tapings. He was then brought in like 1 week before Bound for Glory. It's the go-home show before Bound for Glory.
Big.
The main event of which is Jeff Jarrett versus Sting, title versus career for the NWA World Championship. And Kurt Angle is going to be the special guest enforcer for that match. Basically, what Bret Hart was at Starrcade 97.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, let's do it again. It worked so well at Starrcade 97, so let's do it again with Kurt Angle.
So Angle debuts at what, No Surrender, did you say?
The video
package
shows
does.
No Surrender, yeah.
Then nothing on TV for 4 weeks.
Until we get to this point here.
Then Angle comes out properly, and that weekend it's Bound for Glory.
Yes.
So what, was there much about Angle in the TV in the interim?
They were talking about him, play the video package.
When's he going to show up?
Yeah, and they made the announcement he's going to be the special guest enforcer for Sting versus Jeff Jarrett. But this is his first bit of business. And it actually starts with Samoa Joe, because Samoa Joe has stolen the World Championship because he's undefeated for 17 months in TNA, feels like he should be within that main title picture. So he's stolen the NWA World Championship, and he's been given the ultimatum: you either give the belt back or you're fired.
Could we get this clip up, please? This one's on YouTube.
This is on YouTube.
I just want to talk about Samoa Joe's fashion sense here.
It's very mid-2000s, isn't it?
It's very Jeremy Borash. I push back on mid-2000s. Wrestling's 5 years out of date, so it's actually early noughties, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But this is 2006. The early noughties is trying to die and move into the late late noughties, but they don't quite know what it is.
I think mid-noughties fashion is skinny jeans. It's Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah.
But maybe that was my little emo indie corner of the universe.
Kurt Angle debut. And here we go. This is the clip.
Here we go.
We may have an advert to skip through. We do.
It's this lady. She's always late. Just leave on time, you damn accountants.
As you can see, that my laptop is struggling under the pressure, also using OBS at the same time.
Look, these lovely people have paid for a no ad experience on Patreon, and we're advertising Indeed.
I know, right?
Impact Plus.
So yeah, let's just get a shot of Joe. Let's look at his. I've described him as, it's gonna fool it, kid who's just finished school. If we can get a
He'll be stepping
full
into the
shot.
ring. Here we go.
Untucked shirt. There we go.
There we go.
Untucked shirt.
Take the tie
buttons
off.
down. Yeah, going to the corner shop.
Yeah, he's going to go home, have a bowl of Weetabix.
I'll get a couple of Panda Pops on the way.
I think CITV's on. I'll watch an episode of Nightmare.
Might get the S Club 7 sitcom that they had.
I can't unsee it now.
Yeah, for such a threatening man. And I imagine it looked cool at the time.
I have written in my notes here, Joe is so cool.
Yeah. Well, he is.
He is cool.
He is. It's a lame look. When Joe's sort of given the opportunity to sign the contract and give back the title, the whole crowd are like, keep the title. So it shows they want Chaos Joe.
Absolutely, yeah. The lights go down. Like they rip it up. It's like, well, there's your answer. The lights go down. Kurt Angle's music plays.
Do you want me to do that? You don't need to play this bit.
Yeah. Do you got more? No, that's it. Kurt Angle's music comes down. He comes out in the Anglevator, and Joe lays down the belt. They go nose to nose. TNA, I think, sells this so good.
Yeah, so TNA's in the ring initially to present the contract to Joe and stuff, but he has to run out the ring and get on commentary.
Well, thankfully, it is literally next to the ring, so he hasn't got to go far.
But all of Angle's walk down is commentated on by Don West.
Yeah.
And look, love Don West,
Love him.
R.I.P. Hated him at this time.
Oh, I did.
Could not stand his commentary.
I liked how enthusiastic he was about wrestling.
I didn't even like that. I thought he was too much. Yeah.
I liked him at the time. It's actually only going back now and watching it that I don't love the TNA West. I've got this nostalgic love for it, but it is just watching two play-by-play guys do play-by-play.
And Don West isn't good at play-by-play for me. When he turns heel, brilliant. He is so funny as a heel, like Lawler level character stuff. But yeah, one thing I do really appreciate about Kurt's entrance here, the Tron video is full screen. Mm-hmm. And it's like a proper video that's hype up, not word art on a screen.
Kurt Angle. I have seen this clip so many times,
so cool.
and I still get chills from it because.
Yeah, and Kurt's come down in full wrestling. Oh, the headbutt!
The Angle Slam.
Oh, what a beautiful move! Yeah, I like Olympic Slam more than Angle Slam.
Yeah,
by the way.
So I think.
Can we keep playing because there's the bit now? Because you're like, that's awesome. Kurt's awesome. Yes, he's in TNA. He's holding up the title. Oh, he's probably going to be going for it.
Wait for it.
Oh! Yes! With loads of blood, like that is hard way.
So at this period of time,
that's such a good angle.
It's so good, right? Olympic Slam was a trademark term by WWE. That's why it then gets renamed to Angle Slam later on. And they name it to the Angle Lock, I think, instead of the Ankle Lock. And I think Kurt Angle in his interview saying, like, I thought it was called the Angle Lock for years. But they just called it the Ankle Lock. I think this is so great. I love TNA screaming, my God, it's Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle. Like, I think it sells it so great.
Well, they do a really good job of putting over, this is a dream match.
Yeah.
And like, when we get to the pay-per-view, it's on the graphic for the screen. Match of the decade.
Yeah.
It's like when WWE tried to promote Randy Orton Edge as the greatest match of all time ever.
Meltzer talks about this, actually. This idea they were pushing this as, this is going to be match of the year, like this is match of the decade. WWE were also doing this a lot at the time, like in local radio announcements. We're talking about, like, the year previous when we were talking about Ray and Eddie doing house shows. It's like, go see match of the year contenders. So it isn't uncommon for both of these companies to present something as, this is going to be match of the year. It's not a new trend. I watched this and I was like, man, can't wait to see Bound for Glory. What's going to happen on that show? Oh, Samoa Joe's in a random Monsters Ball match with Abyss Raven and Spike Dudley, and Kurt Angle is at ringside.
Because blink and you'll miss him.
Wait for it. Where is he?
Can't believe it.
Where's the belt?
He just drilled Angle in the head with that kick.
There he is. Bree woo, bree woo, bree woo.
There's the star.
There's the face of TNA right there.
Jeff Jarrett on the booking committee. So what have we got? We got this really big clash between Angle and Joe. That's the focus. Yeah, maybe I should be in it.
maybe Joe should steal my world title, and then I get it back in that segment.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is unfortunate that at Bound for Glory, and this is kind of a lot of people's thoughts about Samoa Joe at the time, which is that why isn't he just your main event guy?
Like,
why isn't he your world champion?
Year and a half undefeated at this point.
Yeah. Why isn't he the world champion? And at Bound for Glory, he is just in a Monsters Ball match.
Well, because he hasn't worked for another company.
I will come on to that in a little bit, actually.
At this point,
Oh, no, I said a little bit. It would be much later.
NWA, so the TNA, it's not the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, it's the NWA
World's Championship.
World's Championship. Of the TNA era, are there any non-WWF, non-WCW, non-ECW guys who hold that belt?
I suppose Raven wins the belt. AJ would be the guy. 'Cause
AJ's won it.
AJ wins the belt fairly early doors in the TNA era and actually holds it a couple of times even when they go to Orlando. But he's mostly the main
only AJ?
guy. Because
let me
Monty
have a-
Brown doesn't win the belt.
Period.
It's mostly Jarrett and it's Sting. Raven holds it. Christian Cage holds it and then he loses it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a lot of just, and this again was a lot of the criticisms of AEW at the time. AEW, TNA. That's a Freudian blowjob right there. Of TNA at the time was they were just pushing ex-WWE, ex-WCW, ex-ECW guys. Because even in like the 2004, 2005 period, it's like Jeff Jarrett versus Kevin Nash is the main event, or it's Jeff Jarrett versus DDP.
Well, do you want to hear the lineage of when it goes TNA? So this is June 19th, 2002, TNA's first weekly pay-per-view event.
It's Ken Shamrock.
It's Ken Shamrock.
Yep. And then he loses it to Ron the Truth Killings.
R-Truth.
Yeah, Ron the Truth Killings.
Then it's...
And he starts smoking indoors, which was illegal. Well, I don't know if it was here in the UK anyway. Oh, no, it wouldn't have been at that time.
That was like 2007.
Because I was smoking indoors when I was at university in pubs before I got banned by the woke snowflakes.
I remember everyone was like so annoyed that it was coming in, but I've never really smoked. So I was like, yes, my clothes, I wouldn't have to like wash all my clothes after every time I go out.
I remember the first time being genuinely annoyed by it was when I was told to stop smoking on a train platform.
Really?
I was getting a train home and I was having a cigarette and someone came up to me and told me I had to put it out.
But I go for a night out, the first big night out of the smoking ban, and I'm like, oh no, it was covering up the BO. And everyone stunk.
I know, man.
And then everyone had to up their deodorant game.
Looking back at it now, smoking in nightclubs was like, I cannot believe we did that.
I sometimes on holiday, don't tell my lady partner, I will have a cigarette indoors. Even though I don't smoke, just because it's naughty. That's the limit of my excess and rule breaking.
So
doing something legal in that country.
So it's Killings, and then is it AJ?
Yes, it is. Oh, no, you've missed.
Is it Jarrett?
Oh, it is.
Yeah, of course it's Jarrett. Then AJ.
Yep.
Cool. I think Ron wins it again, but I don't know. I don't know when he wins it again. It goes back to JJ.
Yep. You've always got to go route one, Jarrett.
Yeah. Huh?
Then it's...
What's the time frame?
This is now 2004.
Oh, man.
The 91st weekly pay-per-view event.
Is it AJ?
It's AJ.
Yeah, it's AJ.
Then it's...
Back to Jarrett.
Nope.
Ron the Truth Killings?
It's Ron Killings.
Then it's back to JJ.
Then it's Jarrett.
Then it's JJ.
No, then it's Ray Gonzalez. For under 1 day, the decision was reversed. Bloody. So who's it back to?
Jeff Jarrett.
It's back to Jeff
Of
Jarrett.
course it is. So now I think we're heading towards the Impact Zone.
Yeah, this is Hard Justice. Yes.
Oh, Hard Justice. He loses it to AJ.
Yep.
With Tito Ortiz as the special guest referee.
Correct.
Then Jeff Jarrett wins it back. Oh, Rhino? No, it wasn't Rhino. Who won the belt in that period of time then?
It's your boy.
Is that when Raven wins it?
It's Raven.
That's when Raven wins it.
Slammiversary 05.
Then Jarrett wins it at
It's Jarrett.
Jarrett wins it at a house show. And then it's Rhino.
He wins it at a house show called International Incident.
Yeah.
Then it is Rhino.
Because they were going to Spike, and Jarrett had told people that Spike had requested that he was the NWA World Champion when they debuted on TV.
Yes.
So they had to get the belt off Raven in that time frame. So then Rhino wins it.
Because
He wins it at Bound for Glory after winning the Battle Royal, and then he beats Jarrett in the main event.
and also
Because Kevin Nash no-showed.
Kevin Nash
Kevin Nash no-showed the event.
no-showed.
So they had to find a new thing. They actually put that the image of Rhino holding the title on the back of the Bound for Glory DVD. I remember my friend looking at it and being like, well, at least I know the result of that pay-per-view then.
And then it's
Jeff Jarrett.
Jeff Jarrett. And
then is it Sting?
no.
AJ? Oh, it's Christian Cage wins it.
Yeah.
Christian
And
Cage.
then
It's Jeff Jarrett.
And then it's Jeff Jarrett.
And now we're at where we are here.
And
where
then it's Sting.
Who wins
And
it at
it's
Bound for
Sting.
Glory.
Yes.
So yes, in that, only one person was not an ex-WWE or WCW guy, and that was AJ Styles.
Sort of Ron Killings.
He was an ex-WWE guy.
Oh, of course he was. Oh
Yeah.
my God, how old is this guy? It's like when they go through all the pictures in It, and he's there, going back to the 1890s.
He's the Forrest Gump of the wrestling world.
So by this period, 06, Jeff Jarrett is a 6-time champion.
NWA World's Champion.
AJ Styles is a 3-time champion
Yeah.
and hasn't held it for a year. And Jeff had held it 3 times since.
And people were fucking sick of Jarrett main events because it's the stroke, the ref bump, the stroke, the guitar shot. 1, 2, 3. Bree woo. Jarrett stands tall.
Yes.
Poor old Monty Brown, he didn't get to win the belt. Jeff Hardy, he didn't get to win the belt. Diamond Dallas Page, he didn't get to win the belt.
Samoa Joe,
he doesn't get, and that's why people were starting to get a bit kind of frustrated with this. So Joe wins at Bound for Glory. He has another brawl with Kurt Angle. And then on the October 26th edition of TNA Impact, Angle comes out for a promo at the end of the show to talk about why he left the other place. But was he fired, Ollie?
I mean, I've got the timestamp for when he rambles through this, but I think you can only watch it on TNA, so we can't show that. But he says, was I fired? Was it a mutual release? Did I quit? No, I didn't quit. No, I quit. No, he doesn't say it. It's, but like the crowd are like, nah, we know you got fired.
Because this is a smart crowd.
Yeah.
The TNA audience is the smart crowd.
And they're all like, yeah, dump on WWE. Yeah, Kurt Angle. And then when he says, I quit, you can hear the crowd just go, oh, I don't know about that.
I don't think that's right, Kurt.
Yeah.
But, he wants to wrestle for the best audience. He starts a TNA chant.
He's intense.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is what people were saying about him before he got fired. He's intense.
Oh, he's here to play.
Yeah. Because he was super mad at the end of his WWE run because he looked at the ECW move as a demotion. And
fair.
Which is fair, but they felt like they needed some stars on there because they couldn't rely on the Sandman to be a top guy on the ECW brand. So they're like, well, we need to have Kurt Angle go. And Benoit then gets moved, in 2007. Before then, it's Test, it's Bob Holly, it's who else they moved there? Bobby Lashley. He's getting his start there.
Yeah.
But he was super frustrated with that, and he wanted to wrestle, and he wanted to be. We were talking about in the 3 count. Kept being made a GM and things like that. He just wanted to wrestle, and that's what he's saying here.
But he was also to give WWE side, super injured, erratic backstage.
He was banged up a lot, and
it's weird that WWE, I feel like would have made exceptions for other people though, if they were having similar problems.
The reported reason was Vince did not want an Olympic gold medalist to die on their watch. That was always their worry. So they would rather fire him and lose Kurt Angle and lose him to the competition than have an Olympic gold medalist, a US Olympic gold medalist, die in WWE because of the wrestling industry.
I can see that. And you got to remember, we're so lucky that we haven't had a big steroid heart attack death, a major one for quite some time. But in this period, dropping like flies.
Yeah, a lot of the stars of the 80s are dying. Stars of the 90s are dying here.
Stars of the noughties.
Stars of the noughties are dying.
Test, Eddie Guerrero, Benoit the year after this.
We get Andrew Martin in our timeline here, but he's on that one show, and he's then not long for the world after that, unfortunately. Crash Holly.
Yeah.
He dies. He died a couple of years ago in our timeline. There's no other wrestling company with the roster and talent that TNA has, and I want to kick all their asses. But there's one man. I'm terrified of Samoa Joe, because everyone would be. But what I didn't know about Joe was he's a bleeder.
I love that line.
And they then have their third brawl in 7 days.
I was thinking about this, particularly through the lens of the Shield storyline we just did in Series 1. It just felt like every week, every pay-per-view was a Seth Dean brawl through the stands. I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. Like, it's intense. It is 10% of the intensity of this. Give me more brawls.
People freaking... Because they weren't doing this a lot in wrestling at the time. This sort of like intense pull-apart brawl where the entire roster emptied the ring to separate them out. No wonder they did it 3 times in 7 days. But it was awesome. We were going mad for this on the forums because it was so cool.
And there's not really a story here. There's not like the soap operatic, you have cheated with my girlfriend, or, you know, like there's not some convoluted story.
Later.
Yeah. Well, you know, got to add some flavour in. But here it is just, I'm the best wrestler. You're the toughest guy. I'm going to make an impact, pun intended, in this company. I'm going to take you out first. And Joe's like, let's see you try. And that's it. And they freaking hate each other because of it.
And then the following week, on the November 2nd episode, you get what you were talking about earlier, that MMA style video package and it is just a video package of both guys doing MMA training. And
they're not doing big pro wrestling screaming. They're just talking into the camera.
Well, this is actually just a montage of them. The one you're talking about is the one that aired the week after that, which was on the November 9th episode. That is when you get them actually talking. And Kurt Angle is doing like a promo sort of off camera to someone, sort of like a one-on-one interview. And Joe is just doing it directly down the lens, being like, just talking very openly, being like, yeah, this is what it is. You're one of the best in the world, but you haven't come up against me. And they are presenting this like a real fight, like you would do in MMA.
Joe's cinematography there, it's so weird to see it in 06 because it feels like he's just filming it on his phone. Yeah. But obviously it would have been a camera, but it's like really candid, up close. The complete opposite to what WWE are doing at this time.
100%.
Which is, I think is, and just to go back a few weeks or the previous week, Kurt is really, he never says WWE, I'm pretty sure. I think he always says the other place. But he is framing TNA, the reason he supposedly came to TNA, the kayfabe reason. This is where the best wrestle. This is the best wrestling place. I'm like, sounds a bit familiar, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It is being the alternative. And that is kind of, what the wrestling world has always been looking at since the death of WCW is what is the alternative to WWE, because WWE from 2002 up until 2022 was a bad company that produced bad television. So we were always, as wrestling fans, looking for the alternative. Did you see Will's tweet about this recently? Because they were talking about, like, someone reposted up a cage match thing of, like, a really bad episode of Raw. And it was actually in the Triple H era, but it was when Vince had come back and was sort of tinkering with things. And Will sort of made this argument of just like, I don't know why we're all banging on about Vince being a bad promoter, because he was on top for 40 years. And we were all watching it. So clearly he was doing something right. And I think what a lot of people point out to Will was like, it's because there was nothing else. Will. Like, as wrestling fans, this is all we just had to watch. And
I suppose to play devil's advocate for Will there, there's an argument that a successful businessman a successful promoter would destroy all the competition.
Which he did do. Systematically was destroying all the... Kevin Nash kept saying wait for it.
You could have talked through that rather than wait for me to sneeze.
Kevin Nash kept saying all those shoot interviews that he was doing at that time. Who's the greatest wrestler in the world? That's Hulk Hogan. Drew the most money. God, he worked me so good in all of those interviews. Hated Kevin Nash at the time. But I love him now. And I realized now what he was doing.
Do you know this isn't how people do the heart emoji and with hands anymore?
Oh, they do it like, I don't know. Isn't it with your fingers or something?
I think they do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Whitney knows.
Whitney knows.
Like that?
He's young.
Like that? That is so uncomfortable for me to get into. It burns up here.
It looks like a wrestling hand gesture that you make during your entrance. Yeah, exactly. That's it.
And then, he's won the match. A couple of guys, all at the same time.
But I love that this is like this sort of MMA style, because this, again, complete opposite of what WWE were doing. Although hilariously at the end of this video, unfortunately, like TNA has got sort of like, we can't really show clips of it on there because OBS doesn't recognize it. His mic, they realize that his mic's not working at the start, and then they fix it like halfway through the interview. So like at the tail, like the last 30 seconds of the video, his microphone's on.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up as well, because, yeah, you don't actually know. You're like, oh, Kurt's audio isn't as clear. I imagine it's just being picked up by the camera.
Yeah.
And then it gets super clear. And you're like, oh, no, yeah, okay. They just didn't turn on the mic, or maybe there was an issue
with the boom or something.
But then they finish on a shot that doesn't have the audio. Still, though, loved it.
Yeah.
It's very, very good.
Angle says this will be match of the year. On November 16th, the prime time special, so they had 2 big advertised matches for this, were Christian Cage versus Rhino in a steel cage with barbed wire.
And they were former friends.
This was the end of
Big
their
blood
rivalry.
feud.
And Kurt Angle's in-ring debut for TNA.
And you're like, okay, if this was AEW these days, that Kurt Angle in-ring debut would be against the Beast Mortis. Oh, gonna have a good match, but I know who's winning here.
Yeah.
The Go Home show, he's against Abyss.
He's against the #1 contender to the NWA World Championship at the pay-per-view, which happens in 3 days' time.
I mean, there's part of me that is screaming how bad of an idea that is, that one of these guys will have to lose. But I admire the balls.
Yeah, that's only one way to look at it.
Because, like, that is a big match.
It's a huge match. Like, it's a massive match. We'll come on to that in a little bit. Earlier in the show, Samoa Joe beats Jay Lethal. Afterwards, he won't let go of the hold. Sonjay Dutt runs down to break it up, and Joe kills him too. Chris Sabin runs down to the ring at the behest of Jerry Lynn to go and save your friends, but he doesn't actually do it.
Well, the attitude on this Chris Sabin guy.
Oh, where's this attitude come from?
Is this the attitude turn?
This is where we've been building to this point, yeah. And
So disrespectful.
So
to a guy like Jerry Lynn.
Jerry Lynn of all people.
Chris Sabin, you utter cut. Didn't say the full word.
Yeah, you are young and brash, and I wonder if an older man has written this character for you.
Who doesn't like the youngsters?
Who doesn't like the youngsters? Who will bring in the young bucks and call them Generation Me. Yeah, so the main event... Also, I love this 2006 era of... It's not just a steel cage match. It's a steel cage match with barbed wire. Oh. I just feel there's something so 2006 about that as a match stipulation, because that is a match stipulation that is like, hey, you like the 90s, right? We're still hey, you used to watch wrestling in the 90s, right? Hey, we're still doing it now, bud. But even it's now wrapped around the top of a cage, huh? You're going to tune in, right?
It's whatever WWE are doing, do the opposite.
Yeah.
So, what WWE were doing ECW One Night Stand.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had... This is November by this point.
But then they put it on TV and sanitized it hugely because they couldn't really do those ECW style matches. So again, TNA's trying to be like, hey, you liked ECW? Come and watch what it actually could look like.
And they've got very recent market data to prove, although this is there's a massive audience for this.
Yeah.
We've got Rhino, we've got
Raven
comes back.
Shane Douglas.
We've got
Jerry Lynn. Show him some respect.
And Chris Sabin is there disrespecting Jerry Lynn. Yeah, so you've got all those people. You've got Abyss, who is like proto-Mankind as well.
He's like a proper like ECW guy. He's always doing stuff with tacks and barbed wire and stuff.
And now Kurt Angle's there as well. This they are well positioned.
Legend.
Yeah, they are well positioned to take an audience that doesn't feel served from the Attitude Era. And that's me.
Yeah.
That was you at the time as well.
It was as well, yeah. So our main event is...
sorry, but I did think, I wonder what WWE was doing at this time.
Oh, tell me.
So I went to see what the most recent...
Open in Safari.
Yeah. Don't want to install Chrome. So before that, it was Cyber Sunday.
Cyber Sunday 2006. Can I remember what is on that show? Because I would have watched it. Roddy Piper wins the tag titles with Ric Flair. because WWE thought they were going to all vote for Dusty Rhodes, and they all vote for Roddy Piper instead, and Jim Ross is really salty about it on commentary. Well, we could have had Dusty Rhodes and Kurt Angle and Ric Flair, but I guess Roddy Piper's a fine substitution.
So we had Crime Time beating the Highlanders.
Yep.
Charlie Haas and Viscera, and Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch.
Charlie Haas and Viscera, that tag team is not long for this world because Shelton Benjamin, they reunite and become the world greatest tag team again.
Jeff Hardy beat Carlito for the IC title.
I'm sure Carlito really tried.
Rated RKO versus DX. That's a biggish match.
That is a biggish match. It's not the one where Hunter tears his quad, though. That's the one that comes after.
Bischoff as a special guest referee.
Yeah, I think it comes after.
Lita beat Mickie James. Flair and Piper beating the Spirit Squad. And then it's King Booker beating the Big Show and John Cena.
Oh, that is like the Champion of Champions match because that's the WWE Champion, the World Champion, and the ECW Champion.
Yeah, looks like it was only for the World Heavyweight Championship. But yeah, that does not look
I think that was
enticing.
in the Cyber Sunday thing of like which world title is on the line.
Yeah. Yeah, but not a must-see show.
I cannot tell you how much the internet hated the DX stuff. Hated it with a passion because it was so childish. It was so immature. And it was just like, this is everything that is bad about WWE encapsulated in one tag team.
Yeah.
And this one tag team is dominating TV right now. And also, this John Cena guy is not good enough to be your WWE champion, let alone the focal point.
I guess Jeff Hardy's in there, but I couldn't tell you a single other person I would have been into at that time.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at the TNA roster, Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Sting, stacked.
Alex Shelley was my guy. I loved Alex Shelley.
But not that goddamn Chris Sabin.
Well, I was that guy that was on the forums being like, they should just put Shelley and Sabin together as the Motor City Machine Guns.
Yeah.
Because they've been doing on the indies. Anyway, so the main event was Angle versus Abyss. It's Kurt's first match. And you want to talk about like trying to get those lapsed fans from the 90s. James Mitchell brings down a wheelbarrow full of thumbtacks.
Yeah. Which is a setup for the commercial break.
Yeah. Also,
I enjoyed that a lot.
James Mitchell, another ECW guy, the Sinister Minister.
Yeah, Sinister Minister.
So he pours those onto the floor. And then we come back from the commercial break. They're doing their wrestling match and this, that, and the other. Bearing in mind, this is Kurt Angle's first match. Bearing in mind, this is Abyss, the #1 contender to the NWA World Championship, who has never tapped out in his career. What's the finish of this match?
The ankle lock. Abyss goes for a chokeslam, turned into an ankle lock. Huge pop from the crowd. It's that era where, oh my God, a submission that I recognize. They say Abyss has never locked out. Kurt's dropped into the grapevine, the coolest thing. And Abyss taps out with, not like, it's just two big slaps. Yeah. It was like, if he's going to tap out, that's the character way to do it.
Yeah, Angle taps out Abyss, the #1 contender to the world title, 3 days out from the pay-per-view. You know what? It's Russo.
It's huge.
Wins and losses don't matter.
Well, I think they do though, because
I know they do.
But even to Vince here, like, because obviously Kurt is he main events the show. Mm-hmm. The world title doesn't main event Genesis, and Kurt wins against Joe. Spoiler. So yeah, that works better. It's the bigger money match, plus the manner in which Abyss won the title.
Well, we'll come to that when we get to it, I guess.
So you can kind of say like, well, he's gonna be champion in 3 days.
Yeah.
So he can take the loss to Kurt here.
I wonder if they had made the decision that Abyss was going to be world champion when we get to Genesis.
The only other thing you could have done other than not book this match.
Yeah.
But I like I said, I respect going all out for Kurt's first match on TV. Get all that interest. You know, how much of the Genesis buy rate is connected to putting such a big match on 3 days out?
Well, we'll come on to the rating in a moment, so perhaps. But I mean, like, this is, it's a huge pay-per-view for them, 60,000 buys.
But I was going to say, sorry, the only other thing you could do would be a DQ, which you could do, the amount Joe's been running down. And
yeah, which would have been lame, but it would have been certainly in keeping with the time.
Yeah. It's not like TNA was sparing with their DQ finishes.
No. It's not like AEW is now. So Joe gets in the ring afterwards and they brawl. Joe hits...
It's a good match as well, by
Good
the way.
match, because I was so into Abyss. Love the Black Hole Slam. Joe comes down. He hits Kurt Angle square in the head with an unprotected chair shot.
Yeah.
It is 2006.
It's like the face as well.
Yeah.
It's not the top of the head.
I mean, if you were Ken Shamrock, he would say, hit me there. It's the hardest part of the body. Abyss and Joe then team up to beat up Kurt Angle.
That's a nice moment because Joe's like, because Abyss in kayfabe cannot communicate in English.
Yeah.
So Joe's like, this guy not from round here. And Abyss is like, yeah. And they just start beating him.
Which is, every Abyss promo. Sting comes down from the rafters and he dives onto Abyss and he falls into the thumbtacks. Him and Abyss brawl, and then Joe gets Angle in the ankle lock. Then that's how the show goes off the air.
Yeah, while Sting is hitting Abyss. No, backstage, all of a sudden, Sting's hanging upside down and Abyss is whacking him with the baseball bat.
Foreshadowing.
Yes, but yeah. And TNA, unfortunately, we can't play the clip just because we can't play certain things on the TNA streaming service. TNA's throw to the pay-per-view to close the show sounds like he's going to explode. Like, you think of the most stuff Excalibur has to say in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Triple it.
And shouting it.
Yeah.
Brian Alvarez would write of that match, the very definition of overkill. Joe and Angle should never have touched. It was the
Alvarez.
It was the one match in wrestling today that didn't need an Angle. The Angle had been built up for 2 years with Angle killing people in WWE and Joe killing people all over outside WWE. Just give Angle a big TV win, though over the number one contender to the title of the pay-per-view was stupid, and give Joe a big TV win, and then say they're going to fight on Sunday and only one of them will win. That is all you needed. This just became mind-numbing and killed the crowd by the end, which is a disaster. Whoever said they needed to rush this to pay-per-view before TNA had a chance to fuck it up was a prophet. The special did a 1.02 rating with a 1.09 in males 18 to 49 and a 1.0 in males 18 to 34, around 1.2 million viewers. That is bigger than what they were getting.
Yeah.
Alvarez says, personally, I think the number is fine. Anyone who thinks it should have been higher doesn't understand how this stuff works. If Impact hits a 1.5, it's going to be after months and months and months of great TV, and judging from the spoilers I just saw for the next month, the great TV won't be starting for a while.
Yeah, so the TNA have gone through various forms of logistics throughout the decades. At this time, they do the pay-per-view live, and then they'd record a bunch of TV and do the post episode live as well, I think.
No, I think they should just tape all 4 episodes.
All 4 episodes.
To building out, and they would do it across 2 nights.
Yeah.
So you would get I think it was on the Monday and the Tuesday, they would tape TNA, all from the Impact Zone. And then those spoilers would just be on, I'd just see them on the forums.
Yeah.
And then they would air for those following 4 weeks, and then there'd be the pay-per-view. Here's some other little observer notes to go through before we get into it.
Before you do, I just had a question. Because, a lot of people... Whitney didn't even know wrestling existed in 2006. Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe coming together in this way, what is a modern day equivalent?
It's Danielson Omega.
See, I don't think so, because you need someone leaving WWE and immediately going into that match.
But that's what Danielson did. He left WWE.
Oh, and then he immediately did go in with that match against Omega.
That was like his first match that he had, was the Omega match at Grand Slam.
Imagine that, I guess. Like, yeah, you're right. Those are the levels of stars that they were, but with a much better build.
Yeah, and I think it's with... I don't know if it's much better build, because, I mean, the review there was just like, they have over-egged this build. I think what it's a good comparison to it is if Kenny Omega had been undefeated and Bryan Danielson had actually spent the last portion of his WWE run beating every single person, where actually the end of his WWE run is losing to Roman Reigns a lot. So I think that's the only difference I would say. But in terms of like star power, dream matches you never thought you were going to see, Danielson Omega is the modern day equivalent of Angle versus Joe in 2006. Do you want to do the movie and song now, or do you want to do that before the pay-per-view?
Do it before the pay-per-view.
Okay. Well, here's some other little bits of notes, because I'm glad you brought up Cyber Sunday, because the Piper thing is kind of interesting in that. So when Piper won the title, they had to then start doing medical for him and start like making sure that he was fine to wrestle.
Oh.
And it was during that they found out he was really unwell.
Oh, no.
And so in the week of this pay-per-view, Piper underwent disc surgery this past week in Portland, Oregon, after going home a few days early on the European tour. Doctors in Oregon discovered a massive tissue near his spine that was causing him great pain. Doctors removed it and did a biopsy on it. Results of the biopsy are not in yet. Hopefully the news is as good as it can be. But basically, yeah, he was like super, super unwell. And it's only because he started wrestling in WWE again that their medical team found out about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known.
Yeah, you don't hear about all the things WWE's medical team did right in this period. So that's good to know.
So they dropped the tag titles to Rated RKO on a Manchester show in England. And the plan of origin was for them to hold the titles for a bit longer than that. Unfortunately, some bad news in WWE land. ECW went out with a whimper as a house show promotion. The final event left on the schedule on the 20th of the 11th in Wilmersport, Pennsylvania, was cancelled after being advertised up until a few days before the event, and the decision was made to put most of the main ECW talent on Raw house shows. So unfortunately, ECW, the house show business, did not work out for it.
And this is off of Super Hot One Night Stand 06 in July.
Yep. They're back on TV. They're on Sci-Fi.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not my ECW.
No. But
it could have been NXT. But NXT wasn't successful as a touring promotion.
No, I mean, it was never a successful promotion at all. It never made money. Here's a little bit of news for you, and this goes tie into TNA. The company officially announced the Monty Brown signing on the 15th of November.
Period.
The preliminary idea was to put him on Raw, with the quota deal being part of the reason that they have a young African-American superstar on SmackDown in MVP and on ECW in Bobby Lashley. Raw has Shelton Benjamin, but they don't push him. There is another school of thought to send him to the SmackDown roster because it's a tape show and they can hide his flaws in the ring better. The original idea a few weeks ago was Brown in ECW. When John Laurinaitis got the word out that Brown was going to be coming in, Heyman made a pitch to get him, while Brian Gewirtz and Michael Hayes didn't at first. WWE has gone full ignore TNA publicly mode on its website stories on Brown and lists him as a former NFL player with the Buffalo Bills and New England Patriots, and that he trained to wrestle under Dan Severn and Sabu, but the indication it's given that he has never wrestled professionally.
Oh, I was so maddening at the time.
Yeah. Not acknowledging the outside promotion.
It's a good strategy though, because you don't get sucked into back and forth public spats.
I thought it was going to be a huge deal in WWE
Yeah.
because he was a massive deal in TNA, but that is probably the first example of small fish, big pond.
Oh, Brandon Walker.
Oh, knock, knock, who's there? This is from the figure 4. I swear to God, this was printed on WWE.com. Mr. McMahon's Kiss My Ass cartoon, which was to have debuted Wednesday, has been delayed due to stubbornness of one of its stars. The cartoon's director claims that although Mr. McMahon was great to work with, his ass often refused to leave his trailer, demanded daily massages, and would butt heads with everyone around him. The ass was not available for comment, but sources close to the prominent posterior say his mood as of late has been crappy. Stay tuned to WWE.com for the premiere of Mr. McMahon's Kiss My Ass cartoon.
I mean, so I guess it's sort of an Adult Swim style.
I think that's what they were going for, yeah.
Funny thing. Did that ever debut? I've
never heard of it.
That's in a vault somewhere.
I was there at this period of time.
Yeah.
I would have seen this.
Probably for the best it didn't come out.
Probably, yeah. Camp WWE was bad enough. Kevin Nash has been telling friends that he's eyeing Jim Cornette's role as the figurehead commissioner. There is the feeling that Cornette...
If only.
There is the feeling that Cornette won't last long term unless Vince Russo doesn't last long term. There is more undercard happiness than any time I can recall. A lot of guys who are normally in good spirits have been mad about how they've been booked on television.
For TNA?
This is all TNA news now.
I think you said happiness, so you mean unhappiness.
Yes, sorry, unhappiness. Do apologise. Lance Hoyt has talked about getting his hair braided like Ron Killings.
Cool.
Because this, you're going to love this story. This, I feel like I just put this in just for you. Because he hasn't been used, there was talk of taking up a collection backstage for everyone to chip in maybe $10 to fly A1 in for the next tapings so he can see everyone.
That's so sweet.
It's so nice, right? But Big A1, he's not being brought in for tapings. They don't need him.
He, not the best wrestler, but goddamn, he must be a lovely bloke.
Yeah.
Because he had all those like close friends and family and fans supporting him in the front row. They're talking about doing that just to hang out with the guy.
Yeah, just so we can see everyone, because he doesn't get to see his friends.
A1 ledge.
This is before WhatsApp. Ron Killings himself is still unhappy and trying to get his release, but Terry Taylor told him they're not going to release him so he can work for the competition. He does go back. Funny story that on the board for the tapings, when they wrote down the finish for the Bobby Roode versus Eric Young match, the description was Roode slips on a turkey leg and Young goes over. It was a figure of speech, slips on a turkey leg being used for the more popular slips on a banana peel, which basically means there's a miscue by the heel causing the face to slip over. Because the booking is so wacky, people actually believe they were going to have someone put a turkey leg out there and Roode was going to slip on it and lose.
Have you ever heard slip on a turkey leg?
I have not. I think that is the finish they were going to do.
Yeah. No, we didn't mean that. It's a figure of speech.
It's a figure of speech. Hey, bro, you never used that term, bro? It must be a New York thing. It's more of a Connecticut thing we say, bro. And more of a Yonkers thing. You'll love this one. Angle told Chris Sabin that he's a great wrestler.
Oh, goddamn Sabin.
But he doesn't like his look.
What's wrong with Chris Sabin's look?
Angle said he looked too dirty and didn't stand out. Angle later made the suggestion, and apparently this was serious, that Sabin do a gimmick where he would be like Pigpen from the old Peanuts comic strip and have food and dirt all over him. Let's just say a lot of people excited about Angle having creative input were hearing this and shaking their heads.
Yeah. Sometimes people are great performers or good at their own creative, but yeah, you realize it's not good for other people. What? So he didn't like Sabin's look because he looked dirty.
He looked dirty and he doesn't stand out.
And his idea to rectify that was to give him a dirty boy gimmick.
He was making Pigpen from Peanuts.
I've never looked at Chris Sabin and thought he looked dirty.
Me neither.
I thought he looked goddamn disrespectful to that legend Jerry Lynn.
Do you know what that sounds like? That sounds like someone who has spent their entire professional wrestling career hanging out with Vince McMahon.
Exactly. It sounds like a Vince suggestion.
It does. You replace that with Vince McMahon, you'd be like, that totally tracks. And our last little bit of news here. Jeremy Borash was removed from doing interviews. There was a problem with his look, and I guess people didn't like his style.
So dirty. Which is such a shame. He does interviews on Genesis.
Yeah, but this is like after
this
Genesis.
Is the tapings.
So now they're moving into primetime.
Yeah.
They've had to put a pretty female interviewer there, which isn't SoCal Val.
It's Christy Hemme?
No, Christy Hemmy's angling to become...
Is it Lauren?
No, it's someone else. I can't remember her name now, but she doesn't last very long. Christy Hemmy's angling to become a valet at this period of time.
That's such a shame because JB is excellent.
So what Meltzer goes on to say, he's like, he reminds me a lot of Mean Gene.
Mean Gene. He perfectly gets over that sort of, we are a babyface promotion and I represent the babyface company against the heels, while still kind of being objective. He asks hard questions.
That's it.
Good facials, reacting to what the characters are saying.
And again, you're looking at like doing what the opposite is doing. Yeah. WWE was just like, my guest at this time, the rated R superstar, Edge. And you turn to Edge. Edge, you are having a match tonight with John Cena. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
What are my thoughts? And then they just,
ignores
the promoter and just cuts the promo down the length. And it was bad. It was like no promos meant anything. But Jeremy Borash was just like, I'm standing here with the rated R superstar Edge, who has got a big match tonight with John Cena, and you guys have squared off a lot in the past. What do you think you might take from that match to take you into this next one? And then it'll just have a back and forth interview.
So doing the bug eyes.
Yeah.
I was just going to correct you because Randy Orton wouldn't then look into the camera to cut the promo. He'd look here, neither at the interviewer or the camera.
Yeah. You want to know my thoughts on the main event?
What is your thought process, Kevin Dunn? I don't even know. You trying to annoy? Are you Kevin Nash?
He's just working
trying
this entire time. Dave Meltzer would write, the event was TNA's highest selling pay-per-view at the time, domestically selling just over 60,000 buys, beating the previous record of 55,000 buys set at Bound for Glory, the previous pay-per-view. Wow. And it's still TNA's best-selling pay-per-view outside of their annual pay-per-view events, Bound for Glory and Slammiversary. So that is...
Yeah, because Genesis, it's not Lockdown, It's not Slammiversary. Even like Victory Road's more established by this point.
I'd say, well, it was the first one, so yeah. The latest version of the most important week in TNA history is over. When the dust had settled, it's a weird evaluation, but overall it can be best described as a mixed bag. While no official confirmation is based on our response, the Genesis pay-per-view from Orlando featuring Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe is the biggest in the company history, appearing to be the single most successful, or at worst, the level of the most successful pay-per-view events in the company's history. The numbers appear strong, even with the Dish Network not airing the show. It talks about the ratings. So the 1.02 rating for the special is almost exactly what the company expected. The rating of about 1.2 million viewers were also exactly what the company had been averaging on Thursdays at 11 p.m. before Angle, and also before the most recent string of bad ratings took down the overall average. They hoped for more, but nobody was unrealistic. The time slot, Angle's first match, and the ad campaign were positives, but we'd seen Angle wasn't an instant ratings answer. Even they knew going in a lot of the 18 to 34 males without the UFC as a lead-in. So again, using that lead-in from the UFC to kind of like get you a bigger rating.
Interesting how Kurt isn't a draw there, but obviously he is on pay-per-view.
He is on pay-per-view. Well, it's converting the people who are watching the show to buy the pay-per-view. TNA's biggest problem was they were having 1 million viewers every week, but no one was actually buying the pay-per-views. They were doing 50,000 buys. Actually, less than that, 30,000 buys, 20,000 buys. They could not convert. One of AEW's great strengths is that they get 600,000-700,000 viewers a week, and they convert a large percentage of that to buy pay-per-views. They're doing twice, 3 times as much as TNA are doing here in their most successful period.
Definitely that is, and I think it's because AEW build their pay-per-views better. They're a better product in general, just top to bottom. Just as a caveat, though, I think international streaming stuff and international buys has hugely helped AEW, which obviously wasn't available for TNA back then.
Which is fair. It can be debated whether the Thursday special helped or hurt the buy rate, but I'm guessing in the end it helped because it was a one-match show, and if nothing else, the show focused on that one match. But you are always going to have an easy sell as a Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe at any time in the near future. Again, the real evaluation is how the December show does and where the ratings stand then. The segment with the first Kevin Nash vignette and Team 3D versus the Naturals gained 83,000 viewers. The Voodoo Kin Mafia segment declaring war on Vincent Kennedy McMahon, Paul Levesque, and Michael Higginbottom gained 70,000 views. The Christian versus Rhino Cage match lost 60,000 views.
It's an audience that wants segments.
Yeah. AJ Styles versus Chris Sabin versus Christopher Daniels for the X Division title lost 12,000 views. Angle versus Abyss gained 140,000 viewers, which to me is a big disappointment for Angle's first match, peaking at a 1.11 rating.
Well, yeah.
TNA Genesis drew the usual house of 900 fans to the Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida.
That is heartbreaking. 900 honestly, if you ask me, by your recollection, Ollie, watching TNA in the noughties, how many people are at their shows in general? I'd be like 3,000-4,000?
That's 900 people.
900 people.
900 people were there.
One of the notes I kept making throughout the entire thing was, yeah, this is a big pop, but in my head, it's way bigger. And I guess my expectations have been changed based on 10 to 15,000 people at AEW shows.
Angle and TNA hyped the match to where you were told to expect the match of the year. That sets expectations high, and even with an excellent match, it did not reach the level of the hype. The match only went 13 minutes and 31 seconds, and if it had gone 10 minutes longer, perhaps it would have been as good as Angle versus Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania or other of Angle's best matches. Perhaps they're saving the long match for the December pay-per-view, although when you promise match of the year, you can't always deliver on quality, but you can deliver on time. In this case, they did deliver on quality, but not on time. The match was booked to go long, and everyone on the undercard was given strong warnings not to go over their allotted time because they needed time for Angle versus Joe. Angle was calling the match, and it was his call to go home early. If it was because he felt a longer match would hurt the match, or it was a physical issue, no one really knows other than it was a surprise when the show ended 10 to 15 minutes earlier than scheduled. The show ended with Joe admitting Kurt Angle was the better man and offered a handshake, but Angle surprisingly healing and walking off. It wouldn't have been so bad if they had done 2 handshake angles already on the show. Angle won clean via the tap out, ending Joe's 17-month winning streak. Any finish would have been second guess, but to me, this was the only finish. I know the argument was about how Joe was TNA's top guy and Angle should have lost the first one, and if Bill Goldberg would have been brought in, I'd have argued Joe needed to win the first one if they'd met. But to show TNA's the biggest star, I'm better than a WWE headliner. But for all the perception about Angle coming from WWE, Angle is and has to be the face of the company. At some point, Joe has to score a clean win, and I would expect it to happen, perhaps in a few weeks, which is ridiculous hotshotting if that is the case. It was a great finish, and the other way around may have been a great finish as well if the circumstances were a little different. They build the match around determining the best wrestler in the world, and right now TNA is marketing Angle, not Joe, as the best wrestler in the world, so he had to win that mythical title in this match. And Brian House was right, judging from the feedback we received, the Big Cat Angle vs. Samoa Joe match did not live up to expectations. Personally, I thought it was a pretty damn great little match. The biggest complaint, and I will voice this complaint as well, was they only went 13 minutes. I'm told prior to the match, both guys were asking to rush through the pre-match stuff so they would have plenty of time, but they ended up going home early on their own. The show ended with several minutes of TV time left. With that said, it's one of the better 13-minute main events you'll ever see.
I agree. I'm partial to a really good 10, 15-minute match. I don't think all great matches have to go 20 minutes plus. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, that's so weird that Kurt and Joe were requesting that.
Yeah. So when we get to the main event, we've got more on this because I went to the following week's Observer and Figure 4 to get a little bit more info on this. So we'll come to that when we actually come to the main event.
I obviously don't know what the reasoning is, but having seen the Abyss Angle match on the Go Home show, Kurt looked fine physically there. Mm-hmm. Looks fine physically in all this match.
We'll get to it when we get to it. Alvarez then has his usual stuff of just like the profound lack of logic up and down the show was why I could never say this was it was like the best and worst of TNA in one show.
My TNA.
He ends here. We've said it before, but it bears repeating. The best stuff on this show was the stuff that TNA does better than WWE, that being straightforward wrestling. It is said many in the company recognized this Monday. The worst stuff was the Russo book WWE 1998 rip-off bullshit. TNA can't compete with WWE by trying to be WWE. They need to compete with WWE by being different and playing to their strengths. And man alive, could you not have written that in the tail end of 2023 about AEW?
Yeah. But also, look at those numbers and the ratings. They wanted the Vince Russo segments.
Yeah. And there's the ones
maybe you'll burn people out, but I think in-ring wrestling is fantastic. Personally, that's what I enjoy most to watch too. But the mainstream audience for that is limited. And maybe you do need to have more promos and soap opera angle segments to carry the rest of the show.
So we're looking at with AEW at the moment, right? And you've been saying this a while, like WWE are doing so well because it is very story driven, whereas AEW at times, although they are doing story driven stuff, it is still more about this is the in-ring wrestling and that's where we shine.
This is the best wrestle.
Where the best wrestle. Before we get into the pay-per-view itself, Oliver Davis, it is November 19th, 2006. I know you're a regular moviegoer at this point. But what is the UK box office number one?
I'm not a regular moviegoer at this point. I'm like I said, I'm at uni. I've not got money for the cinema.
I went to the cinema all the time when I was a student. I mean, a student discount.
Yeah, but I was also a film student, so I just watched everything in the library.
Yeah, you were watching pretentious French movies.
Yeah, I was. I'd just been opened up to silent Russian cinema, Soviet montage cinema. I was like, give me all this you got.
I was going to say that just because it's for Adam Whitney more than anything else. The 17th of September, number one, was Talladega Nights.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay, so we're in Will Ferrell does a sports-based comedy era. Can I have a clue just because November 2006 is so... I went to Talladega in the States.
No, it's the UK.
Talladega Nights was number one...
In September.
In 2006?
Correct.
I saw that with a girl at the cinema that I was dating in late 2007, for sure.
Oh, no, not according to this. The Ballad of Ricky Bobby was number one, 17th September 2006. I can give you a clue. This is a huge franchise movie. A big return franchise movie.
Big return franchise movie.
Massive return franchise movie.
It's too early for the Fast movies. to get good again. Is it?
It is, yes.
Hobbit's not for a while.
It's not for ages.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We're saying the same thing. Harry Potter hasn't finished yet.
Yes,
But it's
that's not a
Harry
return.
Potter. November. It's not Star Wars. It's not Marvel. It's not The Dark Knight.
Nope.
That's the year after.
That's 2008.
2 years after them.
British.
British mega franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Bond. Is it Casino Royale?
That's correct. It's Casino Royale. Debuts at the top of the box office, 19th of November. It defeated Borat, which in itself defeated Saw 3.
Good run of movies right there.
Mate, look at this. Borat knocked off Saw 3, which knocked off The Departed,
Yeah.
which knocked off Devil Wears Prada, which knocked off Click,
Oh my God.
which knocked off Children of Men,
Holy hell.
which knocked off Talladega Nights. Then it's accepted You, Me, and Dupree, Snakes on a Plane, Cars, Miami Vice, Cars Again, Pirates of the Caribbean, Over the Hedge, Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift, The Omen, X-Men The Last Stand. Oh boy, was that a
Okay,
walk?
that was not a good run.
That was a walk home from the cinema, let me tell you. That was pure comic book fan anger walk home from the cinema.
That was the first film I hated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were so mad at that movie when we came out of it because we were so excited. But yeah, so there you go. That's the number one. Do you want to have a guess at what the song was?
I mean, it's not Calvin Harris or Rihanna or any of my usual go-tos of the 2010s.
You got to think of university.
The Kooks.
It is not the Kooks.
Chelsea Dagger by the Fratellis.
It's not. It is
Franz Ferdinand.
It is not a British indie rock band.
It's an American indie rock
It is
band?
not an American indie rock band either. It is actually, oddly, a group from our youth.
Okay.
I don't know if this was like a comeback single for them. This feels very late for them to be having a number one single here in 2006.
So our youth, what does that mean? Like 90s? They're a 90s band of comeback, American group,
No, British.
British group, pop group.
Yeah. I'll give you a clue. It's not Take That.
Westlife, Boyzone.
Yeah, no, it's not boys.
They're not boys. They're girls. Well, it's two, like Girls Aloud of just all those bands. Spice Girls, no.
No, not Spice Girls. Think Karaoke.
Mystique.
No.
Think Karaoke. All Saints.
Yeah.
What did they release in 06?
Apparently a song called Rocksteady.
You know what? That rings a bell.
Does it?
That rings a bell.
Yeah, All Saints. Is it with the actual lineup?
I think one of them's not in that.
There is four of them there. And I think I can see Mel Blatt.
Okay.
And I can see I think it's the actual lineup, you know? But yeah, there you go.
Why is that not the song for TNA Genesis?
I don't know, but the B-side of that was Dope Noise with a Z.
That's cool.
So let's get into the pay-per-view itself, because TNA, we are wrestling.
It's the VO guy.
It is the VO guy.
I'm more familiar with Cross the Line.
That's what I'm as across the line, man. And then ending off every episode of Impact with Adrenaline Rush, Adrenaline Rush. Come on, Adrenaline. It's the Adrenaline Flush era, as Brian and Vinny used to call it. But yeah, I thought this was a weird opening video because it's like, we are wrestling. And then we get clips of the moon landing.
Yeah.
And then it just goes, TNA Genesis 2006.
So, yeah, and this was a part of their style at the time because it was also ahead of the Bound for Glory show, the opening video there. Bound for Glory was in Detroit the previous month, and the opening video package was about how Henry Ford transformed Detroit by introducing car manufacturing and sort of factory processes there. And then it goes, just like TNA.
Made cars.
Yeah. Wrestlers, the spirit to rise. And it's like, what? I mean, yeah, I guess you are doing a show in Detroit. And yeah, there's some tenuous link there between Henry Ford's entrepreneurial spirit and wrestlers trying to wrestle.
Yeah, and you as a company not making money. There's surely some parallels to be made.
But yeah, it's tenuous. But I will say, Senshi is also in that opening video package.
Yeah.
Loki.
Yeah.
Actually, Loki's name. But this one...
I don't know why that opening video has Chris Sabin's entrance music in it.
What, for Genesis?
Yeah, no, like this intro thing here. You listen to this. There. Hail! That's the start of Chris Sabin's Hail Sabin!
Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, because nothing else sounds like they've taken audio.
No. I always thought that was weird.
But yeah, this one, Genesis... So, the Detroit one I can understand because that's where it was. But the concept behind NASA going to space and Neil Armstrong, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind... It then starts to say, well, that was a new age for mankind, and Genesis is a new age for wrestling.
So here is my best guess. The thing that people always say is, you remember where you were when the moon landing happened, or you know where you were where JFK was shot.
Yeah.
GFK, I think, is in an alternate timeline. So maybe here it's, you remember where you were when you first saw Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe.
I like that. And if they said that in the video package, I'd think you're onto something. But the text does say, a new age, one small step, one giant leap, Genesis.
And this is one giant leap for TNA. Like, this is, in their mind, this is the next step into becoming the second biggest wrestling company. I mean, they already are, but like the actual competition to WWE, because, well, we've got Kurt Angle now. So that's the next big step. And now we are on, soon enough, we'll have John Cena wrestling here.
Yeah, I just think there's better concepts to tie that into than the moon landing.
Yeah, but that has one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Yeah.
And this is one...
Oh, yeah, I know that. I know that's where it's from.
And this is one giant leap for TNA. If you'd have put the assassination of JFK, like, I don't think it's going to have the same impact.
No one's saying that the assassination of JFK should be in this opening video package.
I don't know.
Can we just go back? Because I do like... Oh, how do I skip forward 10?
You can do this. You can, if you go up, it skips forward. And if
okay, we're using a different media player. So I want to get to... it's like that... By the way, the graphics scream Christmas to me.
They are so Christmassy. That's a bauble.
So what do you... Yeah, let's go... Let's try and tie thematically what Genesis is.
Uh-huh.
You think it's... You'll remember where you were.
And I actually do remember exactly where I was when I watched this. I can picture my student house, my room. I can smell it. I can actually like feel...
What did it smell like?
BO.
Oh, yeah.
BO and cum,
Smoking
probably.
ban was...
Yeah.
It was a good match.
I started doing those rolling Germans. It was just, but yeah, like it's, I can picture that room so clearly, so vividly. So I do remember where I was when I saw this match for the first time, and then immediately, Smart Marks forums.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they're going for here. This, to me, and it's all throughout the pay-per-view, all the match graphics are in electric Christmas tree baubles. Maybe it's like, it's the Genesis.
Genesis of Christmas.
It's a religious word.
Yeah. Well, we are close to Thanksgiving, which is like, that's the start of the Christmas period. So it's the Genesis of the Christmas period.
The start of the nation of the United States of America. But every time I try and pin something down, it's like a bar of wet soap. It slips out my hand. Because I'm like, okay, like the ball, it seems like it's being created, like these people are being created.
It's in one of those, like that lightning is those balls that have got like, the electricity.
The Van Graaf, I think.
Is that what it is? And you put your finger on it and the electricity just goes to your finger.
Tesla coils. No, that's different.
Tesla coil.
What's the one you touch? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a Tesla coil because that's an orb. Tesla coil's got like the thing spinning around it, right?
Whatever it is, I don't think that's creation.
I don't think that's creation either. I think that's just what the graphic is supposed to be.
Like a Frankenstein thing?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But then, like, what the fuck is the moon landing doing there?
Because that was the step for mankind, the big leap for mankind. Genesis.
Is that the end of it?
That's the end of it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and Whitney, what do you think of this camera work? Every time they come from the back. Jennifer.
Whoa! Crane shot! Whoa!
Oh my god!
It's a packed
Hold
900 people as well.
Yeah, it does.
It's very studio floor because they're in a studio. There's SoCal Val.
No way this opening video package is only 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's just the moon landing, and then it says. I mean, this is the one that's on YouTube. Maybe the one on the Impact Plus player is actually longer.
Yeah,
well, this is why I thought it was weird, because it just goes like, moon landing, watching Genesis now.
Yeah. Maybe they don't have the rights to the moon landing. My notes here say 3 minutes, 14 seconds, the electric Christmas tree balls come in. And it's 30 seconds on this one.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, we can't play that bit. What happens is there's like, here's a bit of Kurt and Angle. Here's a bit of LAX, Rocket. These two are really annoyed, but Christian wants this, Rocket. What the hell is going on?
It's one giant leap for TNA.
Sure.
We have Mike Tenay putting over the most anticipated match in TNA history. And then, yep, I mentioned it earlier, but...
As our gal.
There's SoCal Val.
Yay! Val.
That's our friend Val.
One of the nicest people you will ever meet.
Absolutely. One of my big wrestling crushes. Genuinely was terrified to meet her in person.
But you know her well now.
I don't know her well. I don't think she knows me by name.
Yeah.
I think if she would recognize my face, but she would probably have a hard time knowing what my name is.
I think, honestly, she will know. That's how nice she is.
Maybe
she'll know. Oh, Luke! And she'll ask you about something you mentioned to her once.
That's sound like the sort of thing she would do. Can I tell you how excited I was for this opening contest? This right here. This is TNA right here. But what I mean by this is TNA right here, this is Russo TNA right here. Because what we have...
I'm going to turn on the aircon.
Are you too hot?
I'm being all MJF.
Adam Whitney turned that off in such a power play. Because you walked in and you turned that on. And then just before we started recording...
I turned that on.
Yeah, and you turned it off.
I'm in charge.
And then Adam Whitney, just before we started recording, was like, I'm going to turn the aircon off.
Ollie looks a bit hot. Ollie famously gets overheated after he's eaten lunch. Famously. Anyone will tell you.
He had salmon. Definitely turning it off.
Walk us through what this match is, because it honestly took me 30 seconds to realise who was wrestling.
What we have here is a 3-on-2 handicap match. On one side, it's the TNA version of Raven's Flock.
Not yet. They're going to reveal it.
They're going to reveal it because they're called, I think at the moment they are going to be called Serotonin. Yeah. But at the moment they are just group of lads who are being controlled by a guy.
Yeah, and I would say they're more, by the way here, an egregious amount of pyro.
It's the biggest show of the year.
They've got something to prove right there.
Apart from...
But look at the action of the kendo stick. They look like Morris dancers. Like they've all agreed what they're do the thing.
So this is the group that will become Serotonin. It is Frankie Kazarian, Maverick Matt, no longer Matt Bentley, Maverick Matt, and Johnny Devine. And they will be taking on, bring, help, they're in my house! They're the goodies, the Voodoo Kin Mafia.
Yeah.
You see, Adam, it's a Voodoo Kin Mafia, it's VKM.
And do you know what that is?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. bit of a random shot now.
No, it's not. It's not a random shot at all.
Voodoo Kin Mafia.
Yeah, so they're the Voodoo Kin Mafia.
Explain to me these three words being next to each other.
Well, because they spell out VKM, which
yeah.
is the same initialism as Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Oh, I'm on there with you, buddy.
Yeah.
Why Voodoo? Why Kin? Why Mafia?
Because they start with those letters. Sounds cool, doesn't it?
The amount of times we, just as part of our job, we've got to come up with silly things that three initials stand for. It's what our whole Surfshark VPN gag was based around. All of them are better than this. This is like Voodoo Kin Mafia. No, let's find something else. That's where this is.
Later, they do get Roxy Laveau, who's from Narlands, and she's the Voodoo Queen. So it does kind of tie in a little bit to that. I mean, she's not here now, granted. Now at the moment is what a weird. Like I'm going to play a little bit of their entrance theme, if I may, because bear in mind these are the good guys, and their opening theme is.
And their opponents, BT James, Kip James, they are
Help me, they're in my house. That does not make them sound like they're the good guys.
Attitude Era. Yeah. Unless they're the ones that are being called.
What, they're the police?
Oh, yeah, they do say 911.
911, what's your emergency? Help, they're in my house.
And
it's not like, because the whole thing is like they're invading WWE. It's not like Vince on the phone being like, help, they're in my house, pal.
Is that Dixie Carter's voice?
Oh, I bet
And
you
she's like, oh, no.
do the voice.
I don't help me. Sound like Towley from South Park. Like she's, oh no, these outsiders.
But they're not outsiders. They're TNA. They are like the TNA front line, which will become a fraction later on in the year. They are. So here is how we got to this point. Triple H and Shawn Michaels reunited DX.
Who? Paul and Hickenbottom. Yeah.
Paul
and Hickenbottom.
Paul Levesque, Michael Hickenbottom. They reformed DX in WWE and did not make any reference to the past iterations of DX. So there's no Waltman, and there is no Road Dogg, and there is no Billy Gunn. So if you are not aware...
No Chyna at the time.
No Chyna, because she was on the blacklist as well. So if you're not aware, the Voodoo Kin Mafia is Billy Gunn and Road Dogg, Kip James and BG James, formerly the James Gang. Now they are taking their shots at DX for not referencing them. So they are on...
petty.
No, you think? They are on basically a crusade against WWE, and this is Vince Russo's way of, hey, bro, do you remember when WCW used to call out WWF and Eric Bischoff challenged Vince McMahon to come for a match on pay-per-view? We had DX showing up at Nitro.
Won them the war.
Famously, that episode, that one moment there is when everyone flicked over and started watching the other show. It wasn't like, a year later or anything. That's what they're trying to capture here. That renegade war between WWE and TNA and being like, we are the guys that are taking this to WWE. Down the line, we can't, not next episode, but the episode after that, they go to WWE shows.
Do they really? Because they threaten at the end of this, like, we've got something coming for you. Tune in on Thursday. Because a lot of Genesis 2006 is a go-home show for the next TV episode.
But that's a Vince Russo thing. Is Vince Russo used to end Attitude Era pay-per-views being like, tune into Raw to see what happens next.
Yeah.
It was all about the TV ratings. Like, that's what he was interested in. And that's what he's trying to do here. He's trying to generate buzz around the company to be like, you've got to watch Impact because you never know what these guys are going to do next. And so they do a lot of things. Like, we'll talk about this more when we get to it in 2 episodes' time, because that's the episode where they challenge DX to appear on pay-per-view for a match.
Oh. Are we doing that pay-per-view?
We are doing that pay-per-view.
Oh. Beautiful.
Which means we'll get to cover all of the stuff that they do. Because this doesn't last very long. This is pretty much done by the end of the year. Mostly because, like, in January, Hunter tears his quad and the DX group splits up anyway.
Yeah.
Because Michaels then goes off to face Cena at WrestleMania, which I only found this out recently. It was supposed to be Triple H again. They were going to do Triple H Cena 2 years in a row.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Hey, that's a pretty good idea, actually. Some pretty good business right there.
Triple H, the Jeff Jarrett of WWE.
So this, you're not into the Voodoo King Mafia then?
No, not even ironically. I can't. I think it's so bad. It's so desperate. It's all the bad things about replying to the other promotion when the other promotion just like, don't care about you.
I defended this
Did you?
so much on the forums. I haven't got my post about this because I posted about it like over the next few months or so. But I used to make the argument just like, it's creating a buzz, man. Like, this is creating a buzz about TNA. And so many people would argue about me like, what buzz?
2006 Luke would have defended showing the all-in footage.
100% I would have done. Creates buzz, man.
I would have.
And actually, when it then got a monster rating, comparatively, I'd have been like, hey, Soldier, created buzz.
Yeah.
Created buzz in it, and it paid off. Problem is, like, for my argument with the Voodoo King Mafia is that this did not affect ratings whatsoever.
Yeah, you got to build to it, like Alvarez says.
Yeah. And the argument that was presented against me, which I actually 100% agreed with at the time, but could not say that because of tribalism, but I do very much agree with now as well, which is, this is not two dogs barking at each other. This is a dog barking at the moon. He doesn't know why he's doing it, and the moon doesn't know he's a dog.
Yeah.
It's like, that is what this is currently is. This is them just trying to make some noise, and no one is paying attention. And if anything, people are just mocking them for doing it. Because this is not really... Like, it gets over with the TNA crowd, because, at the start of this, they're chanting DX sucks. So they understand, they understand the mission here. But like...
And Billy Gunn right away does... what does he do?
He hits a pedigree,
yes.
And he does tune up the band. And this is like some classic bad Mike Tenay commentary as well, where, because Mike Tenay in this talks about, I was there during the original war. Like, I was there, and I was on the other side of these guys, so I actually know how annoying it can be to be on the receiving end of BG James and Kip James's antics. So I can imagine that Michael Hickenbottom and Paul Levesque are quaking in their boots about the noise that they're making. But Kip, he gets the hot tag after Serotonin briefly work over BG James. And he hits the pedigree and he tunes up the bands. And Mike Tenay is like wondering, oh, do you think they're sending a message? It was almost like he was tuning up some sort of band, you might say.
What do you think? Is he... doing the thing?
Yeah. I'll skip there faster for you because we need to get to this.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm trying to find the bit where Kip James doesn't do a kip up. If you go back a bit, it's just before the hot tag.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
So Kip James, Road Dogg's made his comeback. Johnny Devine's on the ground as well.
Yep.
Double down. We're gonna go to the daddy ass hot tag. Oh, by the way, if you're not familiar with this period of TNA. Say hello to Slick Johnson.
There's referee Slick Johnson right there with his shorts and sneakers, which was the ire of the IWC at this period of time.
What wasn't the ire of the IWC?
People on the Smart Marks forums hated Slick Johnson and his shorts and sneakers.
How is he not getting knee burns all the time?
How is he not getting work now?
But again, what TNA are doing was different to WWE, which has given their referees a bit of an appearance. I mean, you got Earl Hebner as the lead referee on this promotion.
And naming the referees as well.
Road Dogg's down. And I don't know, maybe he just tries to get up and falls back, but it looks to me like he's trying to do a kip up.
But how many questions can we ask about what's going through the minds of BG James and Kip James?
Go back a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see that the first time.
Yeah, so
the referee helped him up.
Yeah. So it's when they do the double down.
Yeah, double down. Yeah, so it definitely wasn't a kip up. Here he goes. Oh! And now the referee comes over to him to help him up. And that's the hot tag.
Yeah. So, what does Shawn Michaels famously do?
Kip up.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's intentional.
It's an intentional. It's a shot at what Shawn Michaels does.
Oh. Oh, that's so lame. I don't know what's worse, that they did it or that I got confused by it. Because now you say it, of course.
Yeah. I mean, all the best shots and references are ones that you have to explain.
The ones that look like you're bad at your job.
Yeah. So, yeah. He hits the pedigree, and then he comes over to tune up the band.
I enjoy this, though.
It's the TNA commentary.
Doesn't even do a super kick.
Setting up for the super kicks, how he said.
Oh. Yeah.
Again, you think he was going to hit a super kick, perhaps? Yeah, might have been band tuning up, perhaps?
Let's just say it's a Shawn Michaels reference. You might have well have done by that.
He might have been playing some sweet chin music, maybe?
Yeah, this is awfully cringy. And then I do like Kip's finisher here, though.
The one and only.
Yeah.
This is from when he was
The sleeper into the slam.
Yeah, this is from when he was the one Billy Gunn.
Yeah. And then, they win. Before we get into the post-match promo, we've not given enough time to what would become Serotonin.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course, yeah.
Or actually, we will get to speak about them a bit more because there are 2 angles after this match related to the match.
Yeah.
But
Both of which are to set up Impact.
We've got Johnny Devine, Maverick, Matt, and Kaz. And I was like, well, I know Johnny Devine. I know Kaz. And I couldn't remember Matt. But of course, you just said Matt Bentley.
Matt Bentley.
What else was he a part of? Was it just Matt Bentley?
He was just Matt Bentley. And he was with Tracy Brooks. Like, she was his manager. He was like an X Division guy. I think he was actually an X Division champion.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is from his Wikipedia around this time. And it sounds like someone has gone in, written some snark, and it's never been picked up on. As part of the new group, Bentley's name was changed to Martyr, which is what he becomes in Serotonin, who, along with Kaz and Havoc, which is what Johnny Devine gets renamed as, portrayed a strange rocker-type look and would not win a lot of matches. As a matter of fact, even if they won, Raven would come out, make them get on their knees, and beat them with a kendo stick as part of a system dubbed Torture Breed Success. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that does sum up the group.
They would not win a lot of matches.
No.
And even if they won, Raven would make them look crap.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get them a lot on this pay-per-view run, unfortunately.
In August 2007, Bentley's TNA contract expired and was not renewed.
No, this, I was really excited, of course I was, for a new version of the Flock. We've had Flocks pretty much in every single promotion that Raven's been a part of, with the exception of WWE. Like, they're the only ones who never gave him a Flock. And he had a Flock in the early days of the Fairgrounds TNA, and now he's getting a new Flock. Yeah, I love that. But it's a Russo version of the Flock, so it's not called the Raven's Flock or Raven's Nest. It's called Serotonin, and he's drugging them, and it's Havoc, and it's Martyr, and Frankie Kazarian is now Kaz, and it's a really naff Russo version of a good Raven idea. But yeah, so before we get to that, though, we have BG cutting a promo on Vince McMahon. This is where we have the old Vincent Kennedy McMahon, Michael Hickenbottom, Paul Levesque. This is how I learned a lot of these names and stuff. They declared verbal war. Now they're going to the ground. You need to watch Impact on Thursday. So they're going to, because what they do is they go to WWE headquarters on the next show and start asking for Vince to come out.
On this Thursday's episode?
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, it wasn't normal for wrestlers to use the non-gimmick names back then. There's just say, 4 years later when Punk does he drops a couple of real names.
So like John Laurinaitis.
Yeah. Oh my God. They said the real name, or Paul, stuff like that. So this was cool in that regard. The peek back behind the curtain.
I don't know whether or not, I actually don't know this for certain, whether or not they're doing it because then it's a shoot, because they're using their real names, or they don't want to use their WWE names because WWE will sue them.
Yep. Well, Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Because his real name.
Well, it's his real name.
Yeah. And then Don and Tenay run down the card, and then
the Christmas card.
And then we got back to the ring because Kaz and Matt dragged Johnny Devine down, because Johnny Devine was the one who took the pin in the match, and he's got a bag on his head. And we reveal who the Howard Power is for this group, and it's Raven. Raven makes his return. He walks to the ring and he canes Johnny Devine really hard. And they're really zooming in, focusing on the welts that he gets. And the crowd chant one more time as Raven leaves. Cool outfit for Raven.
Just before we get for Raven, I agree. I think Raven's. That's why I was trying to find a picture of him. But let's just look at these Christmas graphics. That's Chris. Look, this is Christmas. Anyway, yeah. pretty cool outfit, especially with that kind of mouth thing. Bit of a bone.
Before Bane.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I mean, this goes nowhere. And we're basically getting this. What I think is annoying about this, and why I don't think a lot of this gets over, is in the very next match, you have an ECW legend who is doing punishment breeds success in the newly franchised Naturals. You can't do both of the. You can't do the same gimmick in two teams, let alone in the first two matches on the card.
Shaking hands after every match as well. No.
Not this guy. Dave Meltzer would say it was essentially a handicap squash match, 1 star. Brian Alvarez would say, get this. BG was downselling and decided to do a kip up. He's too fat, so he asked the referee to help him. The referee helped him. He did a horrible kip up, then tagged in Kip. So the gimmick is they can't even do the spots they're making fun of the other guys who are too old for doing. I love TNA, 0.5 star.
So who's getting worked here? Was it intentionally screwed up, or did he screw up trying to do the...
He is doing it badly, but like what Alvarez's point is, you're saying that they're too old to be doing what they're doing, but you can't even do the things that they do in the ring.
Yeah.
So who's being made fun of here?
Yeah, who is the best wrestler out of these guys? Probably Shawn Michaels.
Is it? Oh no, is it not the Road Dogg? Is it not Mr. Ass? Do you think it might be Shawn Michaels? And 411. Oh yeah, Larry was doing reviews as far back as this. It was just like watching DX versus Spirit Squad, only a little worse, and a complete burial. Dud. To the back, JB interviews Shane Douglas and the newly franchised Naturals. Was also very excited for this gimmick as well. Thought the Naturals were a very bland couple of lads. Boring wrestlers.
Yeah.
Former NWA tag team champions, but they were just a boring act.
They're the sort that you'd see around the indie circuit, and you'd be like, why are they always in the title picture and often the champions? Because one of them can drive. That's usually the answer. And they drive everywhere. They help set up the ring.
They also look like the sort of tag team act that would have been signed to WWE, got a 4-week push on SmackDown, then never made to pay-per-view, and then never seen again. Do some domino, if you will. But they are bragging about how they beat Team 3D at their own game. This was on the primetime episode. They beat Team 3D in a tables match. Team 3D don't go through tables. They put people through the tables. So they said that Brother Ray disrespected Shane Douglas in the Impact Zone. They'd love to beat them again, but they'll have to settle for beating Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt instead.
Yeah, that's the TV match. It's like they cut this long promo on Team 3D. They've got the table that Bubba went through with, what did it say? Team 3D was here, written on it. Cool idea, cool little bit. And I'm like, okay, cool. So Team 3D are going to be on this show. And now, but they're not here right now. We're going to face Sanjay Dutt and Jay Lethal.
Team TNA.
Yeah.
And this is how much of a promo this was about Team 3D. I've written in my notes here, Sanjay Dutt and Jay Lethal versus Team 3D as the next match.
Yeah.
I did not write the Naturals. So yeah, Dutt and Lethal come out with Jerry Lynn, and they do...
What a guy.
That's some respect on that.
Respect that guy.
And I actually was not doing this as a gag either, but on Monday's Smack Collision podcast, they had showed a video package of the stars of AEW deciding who's going to win out of Swerve Strickland and Danielson. And they had Jerry Lynn as part of that video package. And I said to Dan, that was the moment I really sat forward and took notice, because it's Jerry Lynn. And if Jerry Lynn appears on my TV to tell me his thoughts, I'm like, what's Jerry Lynn got to say?
Yeah.
Tell me what you think, Jerry Lynn. I want to know who you've picked. I did that, forgetting that this is an angle. So I watched this the following day. And when they were going so hard in on the disrespect of Jerry Lynn, I was like, oh no, I'm part of this gimmick now.
It's so weird that he is so respected. You know, ECW, then TNA early days. A lot of Ring of Honor. Early
huge.
2010s is like, please pay tribute to Jerry Lynn.
He is a former WWF light heavyweight champion. Thank you very much.
And now he's in AEW as a good guy. Him and A1.
Oh.
I want them on my team.
So we have Dutt and Lethal out with Jerry Lynn. They showed the replay of Team 3D being through a table because they've never lost a tables match before. So they are really going quite heavy on this newly franchised Naturals.
As they should do.
Yeah. Sanjay Dutt is only 21 years old in this show. That is madness.
How old's Jay Lethal?
I have no idea. How old's he now?
What, Sanjay Dutt's only like 3 years older than me.
Well, I think that's not his real age because that would make him just 3 years. I'd have been 20 at this point in 2006. November 2006, I was 20 years old. And he's 21, so he's only 1 year older than me. If I Google Sanjay Dutt age...
So you think this is a bit of poetic license from the commentators?
He's 42. He was born April 7th, 1982.
So he would have been...
He would have been 24, not 21. It's a working age.
Hot damn.
They worked me, brother. Chase gets the heat by essentially... Can I watch this spot quickly?
Well, all my timestamps are off because of the that goddamn video package at the start. Not having as many rocket takeoffs as I want.
I was going to say, I think mine are going to be... Yeah, mine are going to be slightly off as well because mine are timed to the Watch TNA. But this... Jay Lethal is 21.
Oh, maybe you misheard.
Maybe I misheard. It was actually, it's not Dutt that's 21, it's Jay Lethal. Thank you, Adam.
So it's like Sanjay Dutt feels a lot older because he's now in a suit and he's done like all the business stuff behind the scenes.
Also, I just assumed Jay Lethal was older because I think he's probably been a 4-time Ring of Honor champion at this point. But
That's not until the 2010s.
No. This is how they get the heat, though. They essentially kick Jay Lethal in the gooch.
Oh. How's that not... The referee's looking right at him.
Right at him. Isn't that your boy as well?
No, that's not Rudy.
That's Andrew Thomas.
Well, it's not the worst move in this match.
No, what's that?
The finish. Should we just go to the finish right now?
I don't know. They constantly, I love how the Naturals keep, yelling down the camera lens. They keep going, where are you, Team 3D? And then later on, when they're beating up Jay Lethal, where are you, Jerry Lynn? They do real old school stuff here, grabbing the arm while they are getting a hole. I've written here, the Naturals might be the most blandest wrestlers who would get a massive push in WWE or at the very least OVW. They work over Lethal for ages. It feels like an eternity they're working him over.
But Lethal and Dutt are good.
They're great.
You can see, this is the X Division, stereo dives outside. They do a really quick sequence of moves like how John Silver and Alex Reynolds would do these days.
You can see the influences.
Yeah, their work hasn't dated, I would argue. So this is the finish.
The Naturals really has.
The Naturals there's nothing really to them.
But you can see why they keep getting pushed in this era of wrestling. Although the medium is moving on and it is really more what Lethal and Dutt are doing. The older guys behind the scenes, the Jeff Jarrett, the Vince Russos, the Dutch Mantels, the Scott D'Amores to a degree, are looking at these two young, athletic guys with good bods and being like, that's the future of this industry. They're the ones we should be pushing over these scrawny guys that just do dives.
I mean, they're not that physically impressive.
But they've got long hair.
They do have long hair. So Douglas distracts on the apron, and that lets the Naturals hit what I think is meant to be a top rope drop kick doomsday device.
Exactly what it's supposed to be.
But is actually one of them just drop kicking the other in the head. So that's Sanjay up.
Yeah. He drop kicks Chase's legs.
He hits the head first.
I feel like he actually drop kicks Chase, because that's Chase Stevens on the top. Oh no, it's Andy Douglas on the top rope. I think he drop kicks Chase's legs, and that's what makes him buckle.
Do it in slow mo.
So here you go.
He kicks him in the head
and then,
oh god, and then he lands on the back of his leg.
Yeah, and then Dutt falls on top of Chase Stevens,
and that's the
finish.
Yeah. But I don't think Sanjay Dutt was ever struck
No,
apart from the fall backwards.
Yeah, it's basically because Chase Stevens was out of position and Andy Douglas could not go that far because he was on. I mean, I'll go back. Look how far away he is.
Yeah, 6-sided ring.
Yeah, he's too far away, and he just. Doop.
Oh dear. Afterwards, I was like, "Oh, the Natural's upset with that. That's not how you want to do the finish of the match." And I've put, they don't look happy, and I realised. But they don't look sad either. They are totally expressionless.
Yeah, they are bland wrestlers. Brian Alvarez used to rag on these two all the time, and I never really understood why he ragged. He never even learned their names.
Yeah.
He used to call them the dark-haired natural and the blonde-haired natural. Dave would say, it had been a good match until the finish, 2.25 stars. Brian said, we laughed so hard and so long, laughed and laughed and laughed and played it over and over again. I have never seen a team as completely useless for such a long period of time as the Naturals, 1.25.
They talking about that finish, I guess, yeah.
And Larry would say, the match was okay, but rather disappointing considering what I've seen these guys do, 2 stars. To the back. You want to talk about some Vince Russo storytelling right here?
And Conan. Get a bit of Russo, put a bit of Conan in. Oh, wow. That's going to be explosive.
So we have got Jeremy Borash interviewing LAX, who were one of my favorite acts in TNA. Loved LAX.
Oh, yeah.
Loved Homicide. Loved Big Hernandez.
And I thought Hernandez, when I started watching, I'm like, he's the next world champion.
Yeah.
Like this time next year, world champion.
Supermex was so great, and I loved Conan with them as well. I thought they were such an awesome, awesome act. This gets a little bit Russo-ified in terms of they sort of stopped being this cool act that they were, 6 months ago, and are now, we are stereotypes, and we're looking to get some cheap American heat, because what they're desperate to do is burn the American flag.
That's route 1 to get national heat.
Well, that's route 1. Route 2, which is actually sort of still part of route 1, is to then start bringing up your first right amendments.
Yep. How do you like that, US?
Yeah, how do you like that?
Using your own rules against you.
I'm using the Constitution against you, because they were going to burn the American flag on the primetime episode of Impact, but they were saved by Canadian hero P.D. Williams, who made the save. Even he, a Canadian, doesn't want to be involved with these Mexicans.
When the video package revealed who saved the flag, I did laugh out loud. But it allows Conan to then go into, well, it's fine if PT wants to defend a country that sends their soldiers to slaughter under false pretenses in Iraq. The government just serves big business, not people, that listens to your phone calls and emails.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I guess war is profit around here.
Yeah. Like, this is pre all the Edward Snowden leaks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, damn, Conan.
It's getting that American heat. Yeah. He's going to be like, saying the French are all right in a minute. But they promise that they will burn the flag tonight, and you cannot stop them because they are American citizens, damn it.
And they won't take orders from white boy Jim Cornette.
Yeah. Mike Tenay is so upset about this. He is so upset. And then he said, and you just knew that Conan was going to play the First Amendment card.
Yeah, he is really upset. I've made the same note. But
look at his face.
Yeah,
look at Mike Tenay's face.
There's the one.
That's the one. He's so upset.
I mean, he's always got that kind of stern teacher face, hasn't he? But that's angry.
He is as upset about this as he is about the disrespect to Jerry Lynn.
Oh my God, don't get me started on the disrespect to Jerry Lynn. So what I love about Tenay here is, he's like, P.D. Williams is a goddamn hero. And he goes on this big thing and calls out Conan. And then he has to go to Daniel Sabin. And he can't do it. So he just says, here's Daniel Sabin.
Sickening by the day, doesn't it? P.D. Williams, a coward. P.D. Williams is a hero, Conan. And I hope that the rumors that Jeremy Borash heard are correct. I hope that Jim Cornette is going to come to Genesis tonight, and I hope Jim Cornette lays down the law to the Latin American exchange.
Well, something's got to be done. We just can't let this
He's so
whole
angry.
go on like this. I mean, it's despicable. It's disgusting. I mean, he's proven his point. We understand how he feels, and I hope you're right. I'm with you, Mike. I hope Jim Cornette lays down the law.
And you knew that Conan was going to play that First Amendment card. Ladies and gentlemen, X Division champion Chris Sabin, Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels.
What? Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Daniels.
You want to do a segue there, Mike? Nah. I'm too angry.
I mean, Don West has basically just repeated everything I just said back to me. So, and you just knew he was going to play the First Amendment card. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, up next is X Division action. And it is, because we have our first video package of the evening as Christopher Daniels takes on the young, brash, and arrogant Chris Sabin.
Throughout their careers, they have defined the X Division. Two pioneers who have dedicated their lives to create the most extraordinary division in professional wrestling today. The Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, one of the most dominant forces in professional wrestling, and the reigning X Division champion, a man who has dedicated his career to perfecting his high-flying style, along with his close friend, the phenomenal AJ Styles. He has returned to the X Division to restore respect and a code of honor. Chris Sabin, an amazing star whose skills are only topped by his attitude, an arrogance that has led to defeat and an end to a brief X Division title run. Now, he wants back what he feels is rightfully his, and he will retrieve it at any cost. Will his lust for power blind him on his path to personal glory? Or will honor truly be restored to the signature X Division?
We get a bit of a recap there of the Sabin heel turn and the disrespect to Jerry Lynn. Can't believe this young, brash upstart disrespecting a legend like Jerry Lynn.
The cockiness and the arrogance.
Oh, it's so awful. Where's the respect and honor? And then we cut backstage to Jeremy Borash, who is actually, we haven't actually talked about Jeremy Borash's fine suit that he is wearing.
Yeah, it's... Hey now, you're all star. You game up. And he's got the frosted tips. He's got the Florida tan.
With the wide neck shirt there.
Yeah. It's where I don't mind it on JB. JB can do anything, and I'm probably going to enjoy it.
Now working with WWE, of course.
Yeah. And I bet he's behind a lot of this stuff that's going well in NXT and WWE.
He's learned so much from doing things like WWA out in Australia and then doing TNA and like TNA for years and years and years. He was with that company for what, like decades? Like he was there for almost from day one. And he was the guy every single show going out there's like the loudest fans are going to go backstage and meet the stars of TNA. He was really good at hyping the crowd up.
And one half really of the creative vision of the Broken Universe.
Yeah, it's
with
true.
Matt Hardy.
But he's interviewing Christopher Daniels, who won the X Division Championship on that primetime special from AJ, who is his friend, but it's not going to affect their friendship. It's not going to affect their relationship because, they're warriors, they're fighters, and they fight with honor and respect, unlike Chris Sabin. But he doesn't want to talk about AJ's issues because he wants to talk about Chris Sabin, who is disrespecting this division. He is disrespecting AJ and Christopher Daniels, who built this division, and they'll have two things at the end of the night. One, this X Division title, and two, Chris Sabin's respect.
And he also calls Chris Sabin young man. Now listen here, young man. I thought, surely they're of a similar vintage.
Oh, no. Christopher Daniels wrestled in WCW.
Daniels is 12 years older than Sabin.
Yeah. Chris Daniels is like oddly a veteran here in 2006.
Yeah, I just thought there'd be like more 5 years between them. I didn't think it was proper 12 years. But, we talk about it a lot because as we're recording this, Christopher Daniels is probably doing the worst work of his career on AEW TV.
Yeah, and that includes when the AEW first started and he was botching every single match that he had.
It's painful. It is painful to watch this great man,
one of my favorites ever,
have to do this nonsense authority figure proxy role. This is my Daniels.
This is my Christopher Daniels.
This is my Christopher Daniels.
He's awesome.
Well, actually, that's untrue. My Christopher Daniels is Bad Addiction Daniels with Kaz in like 2010 through to 2016. That's peak Daniels. But this is like prologue peak Daniels.
No, this is my Fallen Angel.
This is
This is my guy, my Fallen Angel coming out to his Marilyn Manson ripoff music.
I don't think his character's there for me at this point. Wrestling ability, you can't fault him.
He was. Unfortunately, this is, we're in Vince Russo territory now, but like his Fallen Angel gimmick, he was a gift to pro wrestling. He'd been sent down from the heavens. He was this sort of like, preacher guy. But I loved the Daniels character. I loved the presentation. Hailing from the City of Angels. Oh, I thought it was so, so cool. But we do get to break this down with the X Factors. A pair of 3-time X Division champions. Sabin, cockiness and arrogance.
He's developed an attitude recently.
Daniels, respect and honor.
That's all I need to know.
I've then written in all caps, this is all about respecting Jerry Lynn. Are you going to just go to Chris Daniels' entrance by any chance?
Yes,
I knew you were, because I was going to as well.
Please, don't let me step over your finger stroking.
Because we have our Daniels interview here, then there's the X Factors. Chris Sabin makes his entrance. Oh, look how dirty he is.
Disrespectful. Do you think he's dirty? What?
I think it's his hair.
What, like his hair looks dirty?
Yeah, I think Kurt Angle looks at him and thinks, your hair is dirty. It's two-tone.
Okay.
And then there's the recap of...
yeah, that's...
okay, so here's Christopher Daniels' entrance.
Jaunty Dutch camera angle as normal.
I wonder if I have a framing device for this jaunty angle.
He's from the City of Angels. He is the defending X Division
Oh.
Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels.
Oh, it's SoCal Val.
But he'll come up to her, maybe she'll kiss him on the cheek or something. No. You never see her again.
She has to go back to her seat to hold people's coats.
What? It is SoCal Val, isn't it?
It is Val.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it's Val. They haven't got any other women.
It's just
So Tracy Brooks, Hall of Famer Tracy Brooks.
I just don't... Ooh. I mean, that's actually a bit of a naughty shot there. That looks like an upskirt going that way.
Yeah.
But I just don't... No one... It looks like a mistake.
You can't make that mistake.
How does that work?
What are you talking about?
Whitney, you have filmed wrestling shows.
Have you ever watched the Texas Chainsaw remake?
Oh, the one from like the mid 2000s.
Jessica
Biel one, yeah.
When that person shoots himself in the head and then the camera pulls out through the back.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Is it?
They did it first, apparently.
Well, they did.
Michael Bay was there like, I was watching this wrestling show.
But how would you live practically do this in camera?
There could be two camera operators and he passes it through.
I see.
Or a very long gimbal or crane.
Well, like they've got a long stick
Like a
and
long
they
one, yeah.
pull it out and then... Because where does it go after? Does it do the... She looks too solid. And then it goes up.
Yeah. Oh, it's on the crane.
So then it is on the crane.
It's on the crane, yeah.
She must have stepped over it.
Yeah, so she stepped over the crane and they've just like moved the crane between her legs and then going over.
Do you know there's the famous shot in Citizen Kane and everyone's like, well, how do they do that? And it just, the camera goes back and then it like there's a glass thing there.
Yeah, this is comparable to that.
They built the set to form over it, so maybe SoCal Val in two parts just comes together once it's passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, do we want to ask her?
Do you think she'll remember? Hey Val.
But if we send...
Just watching TNA Genesis 06.
that right?
Did you do this often? I mean, this could have been every Daniels entrance.
I mean, or it could be a variety of different entrances in SoCal Val just like, hey, legs, we need you to step over the crane for a little bit. Because obviously this is TNA having a women's division, but having the Knockouts division. And that essentially then replaces SoCal Val for doing like the sexy entrance shots because we just have the women to do, which we just focus on Velvet Sky's butt.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Do you know what to say? Because she's your friend.
No, it's more just the flippancy of it. Like, she doesn't play into anything else. There's nothing there.
She might not even be real.
You think it's a cutout?
Well, look how statue still she is. She does not move.
What? I would be scared to move as well. There's like a 2-ton camera rigging piece of equipment going through my legs.
But she does not move an inch. She doesn't move her hands, doesn't move anything.
Professional.
So it could not be her. Maybe SoCal Val then got up from her seat, picked up the SoCal Val dummy and put that down to then hold some coats.
The fact everyone in the crowd is just looking at Daniels.
Well, why are they going to... Of course they're going to look at Christopher Daniels.
I would not be. I'd be like, oh my God, how long is this gym? Got like 20 guys operating this. Don't worry, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it.
It's so worth it for the Christopher Daniels entrance.
The next day, everyone's going to be talking about it. We don't have Sami Zayn following shots in WWE 20 years later without this. I'm going to do a ripple effect of this entrance to Kevin Dunn being fired.
Anyway.
Okay, let's move on.
So... what I really enjoyed, I loved this match, by the way. I thought this was an excellent...
really
this is
good.
proper, like, wonderful X Division stuff. And what I really like is Chris Sabin, the cocky young Chris Sabin, making fun of X Division style wrestling. Because he does, like, cartwheels and stuff, and then he just slaps Christopher Daniels across the face. And then Daniels does X Division stuff like cartwheels, and Sabin just pokes him in the eye.
Yeah.
So it's like, when Daniels is doing X Division stuff, he's like... being punished for it, and Sabin is doing it mockingly against Christopher Daniels. It's really, really good. And then, like, Daniels tries to do more X Division stuff, like cartwheels and whatnot, and Sabin just catches him with a boot and stomps him on the head. It's really great.
It's a thing of...
Don't mind me, TNA.
Yeah, TNA. Tempest knows. Oh, Tempest, come and look at this.
He has got his miles. He's got time.
What do you want?
Just watch this entrance from Christopher Daniels.
You might want to put your mask on because we are on camera.
Just be careful of the...
Am I in shot?
Okay, you can see it from here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Careful, 'cause, keep that there.
He's from the City of Angels. He is the defending X Division champion, the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels.
Never referenced again.
Cinema.
Sabin also does a big running tease for a dive outside, steps through the ropes, double axe.
Oh, it's so great.
Really good. But also, Daniels, I would say, is doing X Division stuff and getting the better of Sabin. So, Sabin does the sort of monkey flip thing, standard wrestling move. But Daniels flips out of it onto his feet. I thought, that is a spot we see all the time in AEW these days. Of Osprey, Osprey will just flip out of something. He's on his feet. Oh, he's going to come and get you now. But yeah, it's again, a lot of this X Division stuff is so ahead of its time in 06. It does not feel dated watching it now.
No, it's really, really good. And like, again, we said this with Dutton Lethal, but you can see the fingerprints that they have got here in AEW and Ring of Honor and PWG and like even like Rev Pro and like the shows that you and I go to and stuff. You can see like stuff like Michael Oku does. You can see the influences that these guys had 20 years ago now on the wrestling these days. But yeah, like I love that Tony points out that Sabin is just 24 and he's about to say he's the future of pro wrestling, but then I correct himself like, no, he's the presence of pro wrestling, particularly within the X Division. And then match breaks down a little bit into some rest holds and it kind of like slows down for a portion.
I was writing, wow, this match is so modern. And then it goes, oh, and then Sabin got a nerve hold?
He does get a nerve hold. He does the knee in the back. Yeah.
But then it's right back. Because it's such an innovative match in parts. Am I going backwards?
You're going backwards
God
there.
Damn it. I miss the days of just
up to forward.
Skipping. Is this it? Is it the dive outside?
That's the double axe handle.
Double axe handle.
Oh yeah, this is on TNA as well, which means it does have the ad breaks still within it.
Nerve hold.
Yep.
The back and forth work is really quite good though. And then
There you go, knee to the back.
Yeah, there's a lot more rest holds than I remember.
Yeah.
So watch this.
This hesitation drop kick is fabulous. I love the hesitation drop kick.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things that Saban does that no one else does. But Daniel's in a tree of woe in the corner.
Defenseless.
Oh, it's not this bit. So we've already had
Oh,
that.
you're talking about the other one.
Yeah, because the other one is the variation on it.
Yeah.
He's already set it up.
AJ comes in because Chris Sabin throws a chair into the ring. AJ stops him from cheating. And then we get a second attempt at the hesitation drop kick.
Seen that, and AJ was ready for
Oh,
Look at Dan.
and Daniel just crunches up over it.
Look out! He goes over!
That is a huge dive. I love that spot.
Yeah.
Particularly like weaving it in with AJ stopping Saban from cheating, the AJ Daniels tense relationship, but AJ's come out to support him here. I thought this was great.
You want to talk about, fingerprints of this era of wrestling being on wrestling nowadays. Daniels' finisher is the best moonsault ever, which is now being attributed to Tiffany Stratton's finish on SmackDown, the prettiest moonsault ever. And that is, she's said in interviews, it is a tribute to Christopher Daniels. I've done it one better because I do 2 jumps in mine, but the name is moved up. The move is named after Christopher Daniels.
Saban looks awesome. I think they do this like really good exchange of DDT into a Death Valley driver. Hits the best moonsault ever, but there's a kick out. Crowd are chanting, this is awesome. Saban gets out of the Angel's wings and then hits a haluva kick.
Yeah.
But then it's a really good exchange of technical pins, and Daniels just gets one in and wins. Really good finish.
Love this match. I thought it was really, really great. And Saban then goes to use the chair again, but who comes out for the save?
Jerry Lynn.
Comes out, it tells him to show some respect. He shake his hand. Chris Sabin does shake his hand, but then he just hoiks him up into the cradle shock, and when Lynn has his back turned.
Yeah, and Lynn's selling of that is one of the better, why I order, you little scamp, I'll chase you off. Yeah, I think he goes, it's weird like how short relatively to modern days some of these matches are. Like, this is like 12 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, you know what I was talking about that? It felt like they were working over Jay Lethal for ages.
Yeah.
That match is only 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
It felt like they were working over Jay Lethal for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And the main event.
There is Jerry Lynn.
The longest match on the show is 15 minutes, and I think that's the Christian match.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Jerry Lynn's like, oh, cool, he's shaking the hand. All's good here. I'll walk off. Oh, no.
No, he's hoiks him up. Cradle shock.
Don't go.
You're done, kid.
Come on.
Come on.
Respect that man.
I love Jerry Lynn.
Yeah, he's the best.
Dave Meltzer would say, very good match, but at some point the crowd weren't that hot for it. 3.5 stars. Ryan Alvarez would
Yeah, I
say,
think that's fair.
that was great. 4 stars. And Larry would say, good title match here. Saban and Daniels have been putting on good matches the last few months separately and continue that streak tonight as they work together. I will say that Saban comes off as lost in the match after the angle as they took to be going to Daniels versus AJ 3.5 stars. So this point is like, what's next for Saban?
Yeah. When do we get Motor City Machine Guns?
Not that long after this. I'm pretty sure they're together in 2007.
Because when I start watching, they're just Motor City Machine Guns.
Yeah.
I do not know them as separate acts.
Oh, man.
And I always thought Saban, while I love him, was not that charismatic. He was like the cool hesitation dropkick guy in that team. But now watching it back and how charismatic as a heel he was here, I think, it's like, oh, Alex Shelley is just super over the top.
Yeah. Maybe that is, sometimes Vince Russo has got some points here, like giving some people some characters. You're not just wrestler guy. Because like up until this point, Saban has just been wrestler guy. Although in fairness, he was one of the TNA action figures I did buy because I was such a Chris Saban mark. Plus he came with an X Division title toy.
Pretty cool.
Cool.
Can we watch the next episode, the next bit in full?
The next episode. Oh. Because up next, it's Paparazzi Productions with the Patreon saint, Kevin Nash.
Have you ever seen this before, Whitney?
Do you know you don't know anything about Paparazzi Productions?
I don't think so.
So, to give a little bit of context of Paparazzi Productions, Kevin Nash decided that he was going to be the figurehead of the X Division. because he feels like, as the greatest X Division wrestler ever, he should be the guy who leads this division and takes it to great new heights. And he had things like the Kevin Nash Invitational and stuff, and two guys bought into it, which was Alex Shelley and Austin Aries, who then got rebranded to Austin Starr. And they became Paparazzi Productions. And it was Kevin Nash trying to guide them into being actual big-time wrestlers and not just X Division guys.
And I'm not exaggerating, some of Nash's career best work.
There's a skit, this is the one I always reference, it's one of my favorite skits ever. He has this flowchart that he's created that shows that he's told himself that he was the highest drawing WWF champion of all time. He's like, look, business was okay with Hogan, it was really bad with Luger, then it's huge with the Diesel character, it's really bad there, and it tails off with Steve Austin and The Rock and stuff. So you're looking at that Diesel guy, he's the top drawing champion.
But Nash is a funny guy.
He's so good. And this is all based upon the internet hating him. Because for years, he was the guy who ruined WCW. He booked himself to beat Goldberg. He did the finger poke of doom. He did all the bad stuff in WCW. So he then just did shoot interviews where he got drunk and just kept doing the shoot interviews. Where it's like, oh yeah, I'll do it. If you buy me a crate of wine, oh sure, I'll do it. I'll tell you what you want to hear about the Montreal screw job. Like him and Waltman.
Sean Oliver was like, yeah,
okay. Sean, absolutely. So him and Waltman would just get together and be like, oh yeah, I don't believe it. Yeah, no, I totally, it was all a work. It's a work, brother.
But they were just doing it to just create chaos.
And they were doing it to wind up the early days of internet wrestling fans. And it worked. Because I used to get worked up by it. I know that the forums used to get worked up by it in the sort of pre-Twitter age. Fans got really worked up by this. He did these shoot interviews where he'd be like, yeah, when I was working in WWF, we do house shows, and you'd look out the curtain, you'd see there's only a couple of thousand people here. So you look going, I'm not going to try tonight.
But also, I think a lot of that is true.
It's probably true.
But this, I want to watch the whole thing.
It's him just playing into all of this stuff.
But Alex Shelley and Aries are very, very funny
good.
As well.
Guys, I got a bad feeling about this one, man. You're just not with me tonight. I got a bad feeling about this one. Guys, we're in tailspins. We got to come out of this funk. We need to win bad tonight. I count on you guys collectively to give me 90%.
I can give you 90%. I don't know about downward spiral over
Hey, I always give 100%. He'll give you 70. That'll equal 90.
Have we put the wrestling court behind us yet? Is that gone?
Of course, I put that behind me weeks ago.
If you'd pay me the $100, I'd put it behind me.
You haven't paid it?
The check's in the mail, buddy. Okay? Check your box. Check your box. Lock it up.
Exactly. Listen, guys, if you just follow my lead, you guys will have careers like some incredible stars that I've been a part of.
Like Lasertron?
Nelson Royal,
George Scott,
Pork Chop Cash?
Don Cronolo,
George South,
Brody Chase?
George South,
Hector Garza?
Dallas Dally.
Guys, we can go on forever. The thing is tonight, we need to win. At all costs, we need a win. Guys, can we get in there, miss? Come on, guys. Get in there.
I'm going.
It's win-win for both.
Schemmeichler?
Derek.
You like that?
So those wrestlers in order. So these are wrestlers that Kevin Nash helped become big stars. Lasertron, who was Hector Guerrero.
Yeah.
Nelson Royal, who was a wrestler in the 1950s. George Scott, a wrestler in the 1950s. Pork Chop Cash, 1960s. Don Cannell, 1980s. George South, 1980s. Brody Chase, debuted in the 1980s, was a huge part of NWA Wildside in the early 2000s, which is probably why Alex Shelley references him. George South, again. Hector Garza, who did wrestle in TNA. And the Italian Stallion, a star of the 80s.
We could go on.
That's my favorite bit of this. I go, Kevin Nash says, George South. Alex Shelley says, Brody Chase. And then Austin Sarge goes, George South.
That's a skit we would have loved to have done on the WrestleTalk News.
Yeah, 100%.
That is one of my favorite kinds of humor.
And they sound like made-up wrestler names as well.
Yeah. And the sort of oral sex hype, bring it in for this. I've never seen that visual gag done anywhere. Oh, yeah. Keep going.
Let's do this for Bo. And they make a reference to a wrestler from the 1950s. He goes, no, Derek. Gonna do this for Bo Derek.
I love it. Very good.
It leads us to Austin Starr and Alex Shelley versus Ron the Truth Killings and Lance Hoyt. What a TV-ass match this is here on pay-per-view.
Yeah, a lot of that going around on this show.
Twas the style at the time. WWE felt like they were putting on TV. It's not like nowadays where you just put pay-per-view matches on. Back in the day, you just put matches on.
A couple of squash matches.
And then the big main events.
R-Truth has the same music.
Yeah. Yeah, he comes out it's his song.
It's his song.
Yeah. Nash is on commentary for this, who buries Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles because he's the true pioneer of the X Division. He's currently got his arm in a sling, and he said he was injured 2 nights ago defending his X Division title in the Budokan doing a 675 Black Hurricane twist.
Ended up on the floor and finished the match victorious.
People really did think this was a burial of the X Division. We all were getting worked.
He's obviously a delusional heel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he does talk about how he taught Daniels everything he knew.
And he's called a mandatory meeting for the X Division this coming Thursday on Impact.
Yeah, this is where I realised that Austin Starr is Austin Aries. Oh my God.
Oh my God, look at this guy. Who's this guy?
I recognise this guy. And there's a bit of a Randy Savage about him,
yeah.
where he's moving.
But this again is a bit of a parody of Vince Russo coming in unique characters.
Yeah.
So Austin Aries, who had been wrestling in TNA prior to this, was like, okay, I'm just going to do a Randy Savage gimmick. Then I'll be Austin Starr from TV Land. It's a big joke.
He's really good though.
His heel selling of like the ping pong spot and stuff, and he's being battered back and forth between Hoyt and Ron Killings is so fun.
I forget how great Austin Aries is as a wrestler.
Yeah,
because he's just not been around since he walked out of TNA, right?
Yeah, I guess
in that John Morrison match, Johnny Impact match.
Yeah, weird match.
But he was going through a bit of a belt collector. Run.
One of my favourite Kevin Nash lines from this match. And
it won't be where your timestamp thinks it is.
No, it's at this point here. So this is some great Kevin Nash commentary, bearing in mind that they keep putting over how tall Lance Hoyt is.
Right.
At 6'9", Lance Hoyt go to the corner for a moonsault. Oh,
Alex Shelley just...
He's still Kevin Nash. That's for...
Oh, he's brilliant. Yeah, he's so quick. That's why one of my favorite episodes of wrestling TV ever is Kevin Nash and Booker T on commentary all night in the main event Mafia Takeover.
Love it. They have this bit of an awkward spot where the heels are trying to cheat behind the referee's back, and Ron Killings is supposed to be Earl Hebner's supposed to be distracted by Truth. But Truth just gets past Earl Hebner, so he breaks it up, and then Earl drags him back, so they just repeat the spot that they were doing. They work over Hoyt. Killings gets the hot tag. Not exactly that hot, to be honest. The crowd don't really pop much for it. Shelley accidentally takes out Starr. We get a stun dog millionaire by Truth. Faces split the uprights on Shelley. The referee has completely lost control here. They then do this wacky spot where Starr dives under the legs of Hoyt to take out Truth on the outside.
Really cool.
Frog splash to the knee by Alex Shelley, but then he yells at Austin Starr to get the camera because, so Alex Shelley's gimmick prior to this was he used to film his matches at ringside so he could watch them back later, a student of the game. And so he's yelling at...
Could just use the pay-per-view feed.
He could do that, you're absolutely right. He yells at Starr to get the camera so he can film him winning this match, but Starr's too slow to get to it, and Hoyt rolls up Shelley and they get the win. And Nash...
A shame, because I was heavily into Starr and Shelley here, and I thought they wrestled very well here, great as a team together. And the psychology of targeting Hoyt's leg and doing the frog splash to the leg,
That's
just
Alex
like
Shelley,
Eddie
man.
and Ray back in WCW. I thought that was enough to give them the win, but no. It's furthering Nash's, we need the meeting on Thursday.
Exactly, yeah.
Because otherwise, if they win here, like, it's like, well, do you need the meeting?
Yeah.
It
sort
is
of
what it
makes
is.
sense, yeah.
Serves a purpose.
I did laugh a lot at Nash yelling at Star because I was like, I had to get the camera. He told me to get the camera. And Nash just yells, don't listen to him. Dave Meltzer gave it 1.5 stars.
That's unfair.
Brian Alvarez would say, crowd was dead at this point. Either psychology in wrestling is a lost art or this business has completely passed me by. Shelley hit a frog splash on Hoyt, but instead of pinning him, he demanded Austin get the video camera. You see, he wanted this finish on tape. Never mind the fact that he could be taped for pay-per-view by professional cameras. He wanted a camcorder copy. Hoyt cradled and pinned him. Nash flipped out afterwards, perhaps realizing the absurdity of this booking. 1.5 stars.
To be fair to Shelley, maybe he wanted a particular camera shot that went underneath SoCal Bound.
And Larry would say, I have never been this bored while watching Shelley and Star. This was boring when way too long and just generally bad. 1 star.
Well, I really enjoyed this match.
Me
I
too.
probably enjoyed this the most of anything so far.
Me too.
Next match is a corker, though.
Coming up next, it's AJ Styles versus Christian Cage.
Men have traveled very different paths to be the very best in TNA wrestling. Christian Cage, after quitting the WWE a year ago to join the ranks of TNA Wrestling, Cage debuted at last year's Genesis pay-per-view event. In that time, he climbed his way to the World Heavyweight Championship, only to lose it in the King of the Mountain match at Slammiversary, knowing he was never pinned for the very championship he worked so hard to attain. An outspoken champion of his own cause, Christian Cage is now obsessed with regaining the World Heavyweight Championship and is not afraid to state his case.
I am still undefeated, and I am still the real #1 contender.
On the other end of that spectrum is the phenomenal AJ Styles, heralded as the most athletically gifted performer in professional wrestling today. Styles takes a much different approach, letting his actions in the ring do the talking for him. A man who embodies the very essence of TNA wrestling, athletic, courageous, and at times completely breathtaking. Now, both men are at a crossroads. This Sunday night at Genesis, 2 of professional wrestling's all-stars will meet for the first time. It's Christian Cage versus the phenomenal AJ Styles at Genesis.
The video package is a bit interesting here because I feel like, from what we've seen, TNA has gone out of its way to say the other place, that other company, Michael Hickenbottom, Paul Levesque. And this video package explicitly says, Christian left WWE to join TNA.
He did, and he won the NWA World Championship, and he's now lost it at the King of the Mountain match at Slammiversary. So
who?
Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
Never pinned, never submitted. It's so weird because this is like Crimson becomes where it's just like, oh yeah, he's just never been beaten.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, but does anyone care? Does anyone keep track of it? It's not like Samoa Joe's gimmick is, I've never been pinned or submitted. Why isn't Kurt Angle going after Christian then? And he's also a former world champion. Surely he's a top dog.
Yeah. It's a quicker route to the gold.
Not only that, Christian won't be pinned or submitted for I think another year in TNA, and he wins the world title again and loses it.
Well, I suppose that's why Samoa Joe is a legit tough guy, but Christian in character has turned heel by this point.
Very much so, yeah.
He's playing up the... It's just like the one more match shtick against Orton. I got those vibes here in 2011.
Because Borash interviews Christian Cage and talks about like the barbed wire steel cage match. It's like, I don't make mistakes. Mistakes are for losers. I'm undefeated. And then JB rolls his eyes.
Yeah.
Christian's like, don't roll your eyes at me. You can't roll your eyes at me.
That's exactly what we were talking about earlier, with JB being this sort of moral babyface representative for us.
It's just like, look, I've got a victims list. And it just so happens that AJ is on that list. Rhino was on that list, and I beat him in 6 sides of steel with barbed wire on TV. The finish of that match, of course, was that Rhino speared Cage through the side of the cage. So it's not really a big win for Christian, but he acts like it is a big win because he's a delusional heel. And he's going to come for Abyss or Sting next. Here's the best thing about this match. AJ Styles does his moonsault DDT and he nails it.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen often.
But Sting's on the same show. It's the same Scorpion Death Drop move, but better.
Both men exchange pinfalls. Christian catches AJ in a springboard into a powerbomb, which I thought was a really cool spot. He goes to get a chair in a sort of a mirror of what happened in the Sabin match, but this time Christopher Daniels runs down to stop that from happening. And AJ tries to roll up Christian Cage while he is doing a tug of war with the chair over Christopher Daniels. And then he drops the knees and he pins AJ Styles 1, 2, 3.
It's a really good match.
Really good
Longest match on the show.
Yeah.
Like 16 minutes, I think, overall. And just, AJ this is peak athleticism, AJ.
This is my AJ.
Yeah. It is my AJ too, but I was never a big AJ guy.
Oh, no?
I know, I just really liked his entrance music and I like to watch him wrestle. But I've always been more of a character guy. And
That's fair.
What's his character?
Yeah, he's AJ.
I'm AJ.
Yeah, hello.
My entrance music is the show's entrance music. You are.
I am.
But one thing we can all agree on is how referee Slick Johnson tries to get himself frickin' over at every opportunity. Is it it's not the finish, so it's going to be difficult to find the exact spot. It's off of...
what timestamp have you got?
012645.
So if you go to 124 at the moment.
0124. Maybe it's here. Oh, what a spot as well.
Yeah, that's the springboard.
AJ hit moonsault. I won't be able to find it. Just trust me. He is so trying to get himself over.
He does.
One,
yeah.
two.
The people did not like Slick Johnson.
Yeah.
And I think it's in this like this sort of style, isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah. There's a lot of the whole.
Oh, maybe it is this spot. Oh no, 1, 2, and again. It's not this. What's that? What's that? 2, 2, 2. And then he just looks at the crowd at one later point.
He's a part of the match.
A 2 count.
Yeah. He's a part of the match. A lot of referees do that for 2 counts.
They do, but he does it like he is a medal guy. Maybe because of his look. I was obsessed with AJ's offense.
Yeah.
I guess Rhino, I used to love Rhino back in the day, but did I? Or did I just want to see the gore?
Mm-hmm.
With AJ at this point, I was like, where's the Fosbury flop? Give me the Fosbury flop. Or the Pele kick.
The Pele kick is always good. After the match, Rhino runs down because like Lethal and Dutt sort of come down to kind of break up a lot of what's going on here because AJ and Christopher Daniels are arguing. The founders of the X Division, the pioneers of this thing, along with Kevin Nash. And Rhino comes down and he tells Dutt and Lethal to get out the ring. He's like, look, I've just battled with my friends, in a 6 sides of steel with barbed wire. And it started with just like this. So you guys shake these hands and you show some respect to each other. And Daniels offers out his hand, but AJ calls Rhino Dr. Phil, the Phil community, and then he leaves.
Yeah, I felt like Rhino somewhat forced himself into this.
I think this does start the AJ Rhino feud.
Oh, okay, so that's the reason. It's a bit clunky, though.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if he had just had the feud with Christian, and Christian just beat AJ, surely that's more of a way to include Rhino more organically into sparking a feud with AJ? Just off the top of my head, it's Rhino who tries to help AJ win to screw over Christian.
I'm pretty sure he starts feuding with AJ anyway. I might be mistaken.
Whatever happens, it's not seamless, I would say.
Dave Meltzer would say, this match bordered on great, although the finish hurt it. 3 3/4 stars.
Oh, I like the finish, personally.
Figure 4. So Brian Alvarez obviously writes out a lot of his things. It's just like a run of thoughts as the match is going. This is great. Please don't fuck it up with a run-in. Christian went for the unprettier, but AJ cut him off and he hit his Pele kick for a near fall. He went for a springboard. Christian caught him midair with a power bomb for a near fall. Christian grabbed a chair. Well, here comes the run-in. It was Christopher Daniels to take the chair. He had a tug of war with Christian, and as they were fighting, AJ went for a sunset flip. Christian hung on, but then let go and dropped down and hooked AJ's legs for the pin. 4 stars.
Yeah, best match on the show so far, and probably only surpassed by the main event.
I think I'm more Daniels than Sabin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I've not gone back and watched much Christian stuff since the world has reassessed Christian as a master match layer outer in AEW. And watching this, I was like, God, this is like the cut-offs are perfect. The counters to things are perfect.
It's why a lot of people think that he was the better of the two, of the tag team. And I'm in that camp. And Larry would say, damn fine match here. I felt as though they were holding something back, though. Not sure how I feel about the angle after the match, but they seem to be trying hard to establish characters and feuds. 3 3/4 stars. Hui next. We have JB interviewing America's Most Wanted. Hui. They talk about America.
Oh yeah.
They bloody love America.
Yeah, they're pro-Iraq by going by Conan's thing.
But it's James Storm, because Chris Harris is just like, I love America and America's great. I'm the Wildcat Chris Harris and America's great. And everyone's like, oh, I can see why everyone thought you were going to be the next top star of this. Once this tag team breaks up, you will be, a top guy in this company. Then we get to James Storm, decides that he's going to have his 2 cents in this.
You guys come out here and you talk about the First Amendment. Well, the First Amendment protects you from the government. It don't protect you from us. You get close enough to us, we're going to give you good old American butt whooping, boys. And let me tell you something. When you get out there, you're going to hear 3 little letters. You can translate it in any language you want to, whether it be English, Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, what about a bing bang, hai jong hong, hai jong bang, it doesn't matter. Because you were here, USA. And then you talk about, we're going to burn the American flag. That's the only thing you're good at, is swimming and drywalling. So get out of the ring and get my garage done. Because it's going to be a fight tonight. You're not going to win it.
Oh.
Gail Kim's Canadian, of course, so I don't know why she's so passionate about this either.
Well, Petey Williams is the biggest defender of the US flag.
Look at Gail Kim's reaction when he starts doing the Asian thing.
Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, what about a bing bang? It doesn't matter.
But look at Chris Harris's.
This guy.
He's had a few.
Racism, am I right?
It's 2006.
Yeah, it's just what you did, man. It was the style at the time. But brings us to the NWA World Tag Team Championship match. It's LAX versus America's Most Wanted.
Well, you can see Gail Kim, though, standing up to him. You got to just blast him across the face.
He just turned the dogs loose, and Conan with that slap jab. Oh, he took out both Harris and Storm.
Oh, an extra special in there. Now you see Gail Kim on the back of Amazon. Look at this. This has just got no way. Not the border dog. No! 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 That's just wrong. That's just absolutely sick.
You talk about going over the line. They just went way over the line.
AFW, earlier today, you found out nobody jumps LAX from behind.
We are not about to let you guys get away with this. We are not about to look past what LAX has done to Gail Kim.
I'm gonna take something that's so sacred to every one of you, and I'm gonna burn this flag to the ground.
We don't know how they let people like you in our country, the good old U.S. of A. You might as well be the new Border Patrol, because we're going to kick the living dog snot out of you.
There ain't nothing any of you gringos can do about it.
Your ass whipping might be coming a little sooner than what you think.
Bloody hell, that border toss to Gail Kim, though.
I just want to see border tosses
all
the time.
The best move in the world.
Move aside Fosbury flop. Yeah. Give me all the border tosses.
Adam, check this out.
Have you seen Hernandez do Hernandez should be 7 foot, but he's not. He's like 5'10".
But have you seen a border toss before? I don't think so. Oh man, watch this. Watch this to Gail Kim.
Ah, yeah. Like.
I would much rather take Homicide's finish, which is genuinely banned in wrestling because it's too dangerous to do.
It's like it is just the razor's edge, but you don't go down with them.
Yeah, you just launch them.
Oh, it's so good. And like, so that and Hernandez's big dive outside.
And his pounce is wicked.
Yeah. Oh, but I guess he's just not a good wrestler outside those three moves. Because when he's not in a tag team with, so many times I wrote Ortiz and Santana. I'm getting my LAXs confused. With Homicide, he's like, he doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's not because they didn't see anything in him, because I remember them being like, oh, wow, look at the size of this guy.
Him and Matt Morgan were like their two big pet projects of these are two big guys we're going to make main events. Like Crimson just wasn't working out, but they were like, we can make this work with Hernandez and Matt Morgan. Unfortunately, neither of them work out for them. But I was like, Hernandez is it. Like he is going to be, like you said, future world champion in this company. Do you want to break it down with the taglines?
I only wrote down one of the taglines. Do you have the first two?
I do. It's violence and brutality.
Yep, okay. That describes the tone.
Gail Kim injury leads to a refocused AMW.
That's an important plot point.
Yeah. So what's the third one?
LAX, AMW, NWA.
Yeah. It's LAX versus America's Most Wanted for the NWA World Tag Titles.
I feel like I've got to enter this into a serial port code number to get my Mac running. Someone just thought, oh, wow, yeah, there's a couple of initials here.
Yeah, there's three of them.
Three of them.
And they both got 3 letters each.
Let's just write that out.
Yeah. Let's break it down with the taglines. LAX, AMW, NWA.
Yeah.
So Conan cuts a promo, again bringing up they're protected by the First Amendment, and AMW come down. They brawl with LAX early. Storm stops Harris from getting the border toss. I've been here. Hernandez is awesome.
Yeah, he's got not just because his moveset is pretty basic. Like he only does a couple of moves, but he does them so well. But the swagger in between, the way he carries himself, it's great.
I think Homicide helps him a lot because Homicide is so cool that he makes Hernandez feel cooler as well.
Well, Homicide is the one doing all the actual work.
He's doing all the work.
Because I remember watching them back in the noughties, and I'd be like, stop working over Homicide, tagging Hernandez. It's boring without Hernandez. But now I watch it, and I'm like, oh, Homicide's really good.
He's doing all the work. He's
doing everything, and then he tags in Hernandez. Just shoulder barges a guy.
He's the AJ of this Amos tag team. Yeah. We get Storm reversing the Cop Killer. Oh, there's the Gringo Killer it got renamed to. Killer, yeah. And sort of pushes him into Hernandez. AMW do hit the death sentence, but the Conan distracts the referee. Homicide then dives in and uses the slapjack to hit Storm, and LAX retain.
Yeah. Did you say there was a weapon in there?
Yes, the slapjack, yeah.
Slapjack. What is a slapjack?
I believe that's a sock with like bowling balls.
Is that what it was? Okay. Yeah. I really enjoyed this match.
Me too.
Mostly just for reliving my Hernandez stuff. But America's Most Wanted are a great tag team.
They were, yeah. I mean, 'cause a lot of people will look at Storm and Rude and look at Beer Money. But America's Most Wanted were a genuinely brilliant tag team. And I was such an LAX mark. Loved LAX. And then I particularly loved the second iteration of LAX with Santana and Ortiz. Yeah. And then when they did...
Eddie Kingston.
And Eddie Kingston. And then when they did the OGs versus LAX, I was mad into that feud. Remember like that match that they have in TNA where they have the no mats match? It is brutal, that match.
That's such a great 6-month run of TNA.
Yeah.
When Penta's in there and Sami Callihan.
Yeah, that match they have is awesome. That's the Bound for Glory one, right?
Yeah,
the Slammiversary one.
But yeah, people always talk about the X division of this period. TNA's tag division is fantastic.
Yeah, Voodoo Kin Mafia.
Apart from all the ones they wanted to push. It should have just been Team 3D and all my favorites. Motor City Machine Guns. Beer Money. Formerly America's Most Wanted.
Yep. Generation Me will be coming in soon.
Yeah, the Young Bucks. LAX. Like, that is enough top-tier tag teams. British Invasion.
Yeah.
When Doug and Magnus are in.
And again, this is not what WWE are doing.
Yeah.
They are not pushing tag teams. The Spirit Squad for tag champions for so long. Then Rated RKO and DX basically just exchanged, they have the tag belts. And then it less becomes like, that's the only reason they focus on the tag division is because, well, Triple H has got a belt now, so we've got to try.
Whereas Team 3D were very proudly about, this is where tag wrestling matters. And I bought into that, and I think they backed it up. But then they've also got Voodoo Kin Mafia and The Naturals.
I decided, because I know what James Storm's been, he's still doing a lot of stuff, doing some stuff in NWA and things like that. And I was like, what's Chris Harris up to these days? I'll tell you what Chris Harris is up to these days. Tagging with James Storm.
Wow.
They were the tag team champions in like a local promotion until recently when they lost the tag belts to Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich. In that same promotion, this year in March, America's Most Wanted wrestled Rob Van Dam and Matt Riddle.
That's a new Stoner Bros combination.
Right?
Wow.
In a promotion called WCBPTW.
Is that one of the taglines?
Stands for... I read this out to 10 minutes. Like, this sounds like a promotion that we would make up for like a wrestling RPG. It stands for World Classic Professional Big Time Wrestling.
Oh, spam the search terms there. That's a porn title where you put all of the...
World Classic Professional Big Time Wrestling.
Which one do you prefer? Big Time Wrestling or World Classic Wrestling? Yes.
All of them. Can we put America in there as well? American World Class Professional US Tag Wrestling. Yeah, I loved this. And then let's talk about the angle that comes afterwards as well, then we'll get into the reviews. So Conan gets the flag and Homicide tries to hit the cop killer on Gail Kim, but the American hero, Canadian Petey Williams, runs in to make the save.
Saving other Canadian Gail Kim.
And Jim Cornette comes down. The rumors are true. Jim Cornette is here tonight. And he said that this is just bad taste. This is either racism or it's just a publicity stunt. I don't know if he's directing that to Vince Russo or if he's directing that to Conan. He says management does not like this. The fans don't like this. The veterans don't like this. And they decided...
The veterans being soldiers.
Yeah, not Jerry Lynn.
Not yet.
The TNA management have decided that LAX are not fit to represent TNA as the tag team champions, so they are stripped of the NWA World Tag Team Championships.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a 101 in how to somehow make the anti-American heels turn babyface.
Yeah, because what happens? You skip ahead to the end of the match.
The crowd are into LAX as heels, but they're into them as heel champions.
Yeah.
Racism you perceive that you experience, or whether this whole thing is just a stinking twisted publicity stunt that's gone too far. But you have come out here more than once and said you were going to desecrate the American flag. Well, I got something to tell you. Management, they didn't like that. But
That's
you know
one.
what? You know what's more important than management? These fans. The TNA fans. They didn't like
They're on side for it at the moment.
Yeah.
You know who else didn't like it? The veterans.
Veterans didn't like it.
Put their lives on the line.
Cornette spoke to all of them.
And Jerry Lynn.
And Jerry Lynn. Oh, there's more.
Who else didn't like it? The families and friends who have had loved ones pay the ultimate price.
I thought that was kind of implied with the veterans sect. But cool, yeah, they get it. It's four
Yeah,
groups
four.
of people are upset with
And
this.
they're all Americans, and they all do not want to see the American flag burned.
So I'm here to tell you, LAX, that management has decided you're not fit to represent TNA as tag team champions.
Oh, crowd don't like that.
Hold on.
They like LAX,
Yeah.
really. They like watching them.
Yeah.
As of right here, right now, you are stripped of the NWA World Tag Team title. Oh, I love it!
Sometimes you just can take a man so far.
Boo.
No. And one more thing. You
Quick talk over them, Jim.
that symbolize the championship. You got until this Thursday night on Impact.
Bullshit. Yeah.
Unfortunately, this does not get over. I've written here, well, that backfired.
I mean, what a lame way to beat the heels.
Yeah.
Oh, management decided we're just going to take the titles off you.
Daddy's
That's
taking
not
the
what
belts
you
off
do.
you.
Like,
Yeah, I
you get
know.
the baby faces to beat
To
them.
win the belts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Dave Meltzer would say, match had great heat, but at times wasn't smooth. There were things that didn't click, and Homicide was working with a fever.
Oh.
Cornette
A
said,
fever for violence.
Cornette said TNA management was stripping LAX of the tag belt. At first, about 75% of the crowd turned on Cornette. When he said he wanted LAX to bring him the belts on Impact this week or they would be fired, it was 100% booing Cornette. The segment backfired in a big way, 2.5 stars. Brian Alvarez would say, they fought all over the place outside. The best was when Storm tried to drop Hernandez over the guardrail and Hernandez appeared to dead weight him. Normally, I would presume this was a mistake, but I don't think these 4 guys were out drinking after the show. And no sooner should I write that than AMW threw Homicide over the top rope, and he was all off kilter and fell well too down to the pretty black mats on his bad shoulder. He appeared okay, but that was scary. Match was good, but went too long. 3.25 stars.
I remember this, that Hernandez would deadweight people a lot. But maybe he's just not good.
I think that probably is more what it is. It's like he's not very good at wrestling. Yeah. And Larry would say match was okay, but they don't have a lot of chemistry as of yet. The match was marred by the after-match angle. Stripping titles is a Russo standard, and they risk ruining the hot run of LAX here. 2 stars.
Yeah, really bad angle at the end.
Yeah.
But it's interesting seeing Conan there, working with Jim Cornette. You know, like if you think, not that they're falling out or anything, but fast forward 20 or so years, Conan and Cornette are like the leading anti-AEW voices.
Yeah, it's true.
And here they are doing a really crap angle that's way worse than anything, well, not anything, but worse than a lot of what AEW have done.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing it.
Yeah, they're doing it.
Yeah.
Well,
makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, Cornette, he hates comedy and wacky wrestling, but he did once dress up as a Ninja Turtle to do some wrestling.
Yeah.
Backstage, James Mitchell. I love a James Mitchell promo. Cut to promo on Sting. You want to see the dark side of Sting is still within there. And he looks at Abyss. Sting, he's looking at Abyss, and all he sees is a black mirror staring right back at him. We will take you on the highway to hell, Sting, and you'll come willing. You'll thank my monster Abyss, your next NWA World's Champion. And then Abyss goes, every Abyss James Mitchell promo, and I love it.
Yeah, it's great. If you don't know James Mitchell, listeners and viewers now, video capability enabled, he was the guy who did the drugs on camera.
It wasn't real drugs, everyone. It was a publicity stunt. Yeah. It was either drug usage or a publicity stunt that's gone too far.
But he also had got an AEW cameo when he married... Was it Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian, I think?
I'd forgotten about that because he's the Sinister Minister from ECW.
I really enjoyed that cameo.
Such a mark for James Mitchell. We're still in TNA, still doing stuff with TNA, like with Rosemary and stuff. Like I think he's still doing work with them. But yeah, he was with NWA for that Sam Hain show. Yeah. But it does lead into our NWA World Championship match. The new champion Sting defends against the challenger Abyss.
He is an icon, a mighty warrior, the legend known as Sting.
This belt is going to represent honor, respect, dignity, and truth.
The monster Abyss, a tormented and tortured soul hidden behind a dark mask. His face unknown, but his despicable nature is renowned and feared by all that face him. While no one can say what traumatic life event transformed him into the maniacal killing machine he is today, one thing is clear. His personal pain becomes his opponent's living nightmare. The ring is his personal slaughterhouse. His capacity for punishment is immeasurable. His thirst for blood cannot be quenched. His penchant for violence and his insatiable appetite for destruction has left a myriad of broken bodies in his wake. Fight for the right. It began as a free-for-all between 18 combatants. 3 weeks later, it was an epic battle between two. AJ Styles, the Monster Abyss. The Monster Abyss emerged victorious and earned a precious opportunity to fight for the prestigious NWA Championship. Now, the legend known as Sting has a new mission: to decimate the darkness and become a warrior of light.
For we wrestle
not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in the highest realm.
Abyss, Sting, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, Abyss won the Fight for the Right tournament, and Sting won the title Bound for Glory. That's a simple way to get here.
Yeah.
He won a tournament, and now they're having a match. Shall we look at the tail of the tape?
Read it.
It's Sting's first title defense.
Easy.
Abyss won shot by winning Fight for the Right tournament.
I like the story so far.
And our final point, it's the Scorpion versus the Black Hole Slam.
That's all it needs to be. A guy that I hope they don't do any weird booking that undermines this simple classic story of babyface champion defending against almost undefeatable monster.
This is a wacky old match.
I really like the match.
It's really good. It's all kinds of wacky. And the reason why I say that is I knew what the finish to this was because I forgot. I remember it at the time. So I have very vivid memories of this finish. It actually doesn't come when I think it comes, though. And I also did not remember all of the stuff that happens before. So to kind of jump ahead a little bit, this match ends in DQ. And I thought that it ended when he hung him up and then he hit him with the bat. And I thought that's when the DQ happened. In my memory, in my timeline, before it shifted, that's where the match ended. But it ends a little bit later on. I do not remember all of the weapon stuff beforehand that was not DQs.
Yeah, because I thought, oh, okay, it's a hardcore match, no DQ match. I go to Wikipedia. No, straight world title defense.
Just a singles match. I mean, it is a TNA world title match in 2006. There is a lot of crowd brawling.
Yeah. But, full credit to Sting. We always talk now about, oh my God, Sting at that age, he never did that sort of stuff in TNA. He's jumping off the top rope. He's got his top off.
He's wrestling shirtless here because he does the thumbtack spot.
He got choke slammed into a load of thumbtacks.
Yeah. When he does the Stinger Splash to the guardrail, he clatters into that thing because he launched himself into it.
He's motivated, but I guess, first title defense. Yeah. Company's trusted me with this belt. He's a proud man. I really like this match up until the finish.
So this is a straight singles match. So, there could be some DQs here. So Abyss does hit him with a chair and he does get a table and he does grab a barbed wire board. He tries to powerbomb Sting off the stage, but the referee stops him. James Mitchell passes Abyss the belt. Sting ducks the belt and he gets in the deathlock. And then Sting goes to use the belt, but it runs right into a black hole slam.
Love the black hole slam.
Which is now Odyssey Jones is using as his finish on Raw. I've been calling it a boss man slam just because, who the man.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a black hole slam. And it's with Abyss being a producer in WWE right now.
Of all the weapon spots, why is referee Rudy Charles trying to stop people using the belt?
Well, it's because it's a singles match. There's rules to follow here.
Yeah, but he doesn't stop anyone using the chair but he can control the belt?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That is within his reach. He could get that one.
Sting's just got a baseball bat at one point. No one stops that.
I love that in this match where they've been doing all of these weapon shots in front of the referee, they felt they needed to do a ref bump.
Yeah. That's too far.
They do a ref bump. Then they get out the bag of tacks. I've then written here, the match breaks down into a wrestling match. Because Sting makes his comeback. They go to use the belt, but runs a back claw slam. Bag of tacks. Sting knocks it out of his hand. It gets a visual pin. And the referee Mitchell pulls the referee out. Sting gets...
Not a DQ.
Yeah. Sting gets the tacks, and then he gets choke slammed into the tacks. But
bareback and all.
Raw
dog those tacks.
Because it's Sting, it powers him up.
Yes.
So he stands up, he does the chest beating, he woos his way.
It's so cool. It
is.
And it's not just like slammed into the tacks, bounces up, slammed into the tacks. 1, 2, kick out, roar, and he gets up.
Yeah. Does a drop toe hold into the tacks, applies the Scorpion. Abyss taps out, but the referee does not see it because James Mitchell is distracting. Mitchell then gets put in the Scorpion deathlock and he starts tapping like a wild man. Sting waffles Abyss with a chair.
Oh, can I just add there that means Abyss, after never tapping out, has tapped twice in 3 days. Once the Kurt Angle go home, and now here just for a visual loss.
Visual loss right there. And then he does a really mad spot where he puts a noose around Abyss's legs and hangs him by his feet and starts twatting him with a bat.
Oh yeah, twatting is the correct word there. Because it's not as contrived as it sounds, because it's the cable he comes down from.
Yeah, but he doesn't come down for it in this one.
But he knows it's up there. It was set up there on Thursday.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was also backstage on the Go Home show.
No, I don't either.
And Sting was being... Because this is the receipt for Abyss doing the same to him for like 5 seconds on the Go Home angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the sort of thing that will, next year in TNA's timeline, elicits Fire Russo chants. This is the genesis of those chants starting.
You could say it's one small step for man.
And so then he drags Abyss up the ramp and he's going to put him through the barbed wire boards. And referee Rudy Charles is like, no, Sting, this is a straight singles match.
That's too fast.
You can't do this, Sting. So Sting pushes Rudy Charles down.
The third time someone's attacked the referee in this match.
Yeah, and then he pushes Abyss through the barbed wire boards as the bell rings. And Abyss is there and he's all tangled up in the boards.
He's doing the spasm cell that he does really well.
Sting's walked down the ramp. He's not quite sure what's going on. Rudy Charles recovers from, being knocked down, and he comes and he explains to Dave Penza that Sting has been DQ'd. So they announce that Sting has been DQ'd. And per the rules set out by TNA when they first launched in 2002, because they were looking to be different from the competition, if you lose via DQ, you lose the championship.
Meaning Abyss is the new NWA World Champion.
James Mitchell's plan worked.
Yeah. I mean, the outcome was right, but...
He pushed Sting. He pushed Sting into this new violent era of Sting, and Sting took it too far by pushing down referee Rudy Charles, and he got DQ'd for his troubles.
I just wish, if that's the story you're going to tell, first, tell that story in the build, because that, the idea of unlocking this bad part of Sting wasn't in any of the taglines. It wasn't in the build that I saw. But also... be sparing over the spots where you go too far for a potential DQ.
Yeah.
Don't have one ref bump, then the referee getting pulled out, and then Sting shoving the referee away, and all these weapon spots, not just weapon spots, but like weapon spots with no reasonable doubt.
No.
I have clearly suspended Abyss above the ground in full view of the referee. I've clearly used a bat. He's clearly used a chair. All of this stuff.
There's tacks lying all over the ring.
There's tacks everywhere. This stuff undermines that crappy finish. It's a crappy finish anyway.
Yep.
It doesn't even make sense within its own crap.
You can just imagine when Vince Russo learned that was a stipulation that was in place. Bro, the fans will never see it coming. We's gonna do that as a finish, and we're gonna crown Abyss as the new champion.
And the fans respond for the second time on the show with bullshit chants.
They sure do. Dave Meltzer gave it 2.25 stars. Brian Alvarez said he dragged Abyss up the ramp and went to throw him off the barbed wire table. The referee told him no, so Sting shoved him. The referee told him no again, so this time Sting clotheslined him. This, my children, resulted in a disqualification. So I guess in a some DQ match, write all this down because Russo...
Some DQ match. You don't know what will get you DQ'd, and that's the jeopardy.
Write all of this down since Russo, that arsehole, didn't provide us with 3 screenshots detailing the rules. It is okay to land a hand on a referee if you're pulling the referee out of the ring to break up a pin, but not okay to lay your hands on the referee if you're trying to stop him from DQing you. Sting threw Abyss off the ramp through the table afterwards, so it gets better. The referee came out and announced that per the rules made 4 years ago and never mentioned since about how the belt can change hands on a DQ, Abyss was the new champion. This gets negative stars for insulting my intelligence like few matches have in the last few years, -2 stars.
We've got a negative star rating.
We have.
Wow.
And Larry would say, I see what they were trying to do.
Bless Larry.
But all the crap with the rappel line is what killed as it took forever. In theory, it was a good plan and Mitchell's promo set the stage. They went back to the old DQ rule for the title changes, which they have not used in a while, and it's nice nod to continuity, and they've never educated new fans on old ones probably had forgotten about the rule. 2 stars.
Yeah, well then make that part of the match going in. Don't do it as a surprise. You didn't read the rule book.
I think with that, unfortunately, if you do that, it telegraphs the ending. It's Royal Rumble 2000, where in the show they were like, hey, do you remember the Royal Rumble 1996 finish where Shawn Michaels only had 1 foot touch the floor? Ho ho, what a wacky old time that was. I'm sure that won't happen in the finish of this match.
I disagree because Christian and Randy Orton's second match, I think, was all based around if Randy gets DQ'd, Christian will win the belt.
Yeah.
And Christian was doing everything he could to get Randy to lose his cool and get DQ'd. I'm pretty sure he doesn't in the end.
Yeah, he gets DQ'd.
He does, yeah.
Because Christian spits on him and then he
blows
blows
is that the one? Yeah. And I thought it could go either way. I love that match. I think it's a great story. One of the best feuds of that year. Do that here.
I totally see your point, but I think if you just, out of the blue, 4 years after you've introduced the rule, just say, oh, by the way, if a DQ happened, then the belt changes hands, people will go like, oh, right.
No, sorry. Yeah, you wouldn't do that. You'd have the Sinister Minister weeks in advance go, by the way, do you know that there's this rule? And usually I'd want a DQ match, a no DQ match, because Abyss will just murder you and do all these things. But I know you're a horrible person inside, Sting, and you can't control your rage, just like my monster can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to be your downfall because the title can change hands on a DQ. And that's the story going in.
Yeah. I don't hate it. But yeah, they did it out of the blue because it caught fans off guard. So swerve, bro. And that brings us to our main event.
On the highest selling TNA pay-per-view of all time.
Yeah.
It's got a match with -2 stars on, and it's for the world title.
And the Voodoo Kid Mafia. And in our main event, it's the match of the decade. It is the most anticipated match in TNA history, in wrestling history. It's Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe.
September 24th, the announcement that would forever change the face of professional wrestling. Kurt Angle signed with TNA.
It's beautiful. It's damn.
That's freaking unbelievable! I don't believe it!
Very rarely is a man given a chance in life to redefine the sport that has defined him.
Kurt Angle's in the impact zone! Listen to this crowd! Absolutely going nuts!
His impact was immediately felt, and his headbutt was heard around the world.
Oh my God! Kurt Angle just headbutted Samoa Joe!
Samoa Joe, filled with rage, knew that retribution must be paid in full. October 22nd, Bound for Glory. Career versus title. The stakes could not have been higher for the legend known as Sting and the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Jeff Jarrett.
Kurt Angle, special enforcer for this NWA World Heavyweight title match.
But before the match got underway, Samoa Joe bull rushed the ring with revenge on his mind and hate in his heart.
Oh my God, look at all the security trying to separate these two, and they're like two mad dogs trying to get at each other. What a chaotic situation. Here is Bound for Glory and TNA security separating Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe.
On October 26th, the dream match of the decade was announced.
TNA has the announcement that we've all been waiting for.
November 19th, it's finally going down! Kurt Angle, one-on-one against Samoa Joe!
The undefeated Samoan submission machine Samoa Joe versus the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle.
You know, everybody wants to know what I think of Kurt Angle. Kurt, you're one of the best in the world.
Why Samoa Joe? I handpicked Samoa Joe. He is the top of the food chain here. He's undefeated in TNA. And I want to prove that I am the best in the world.
Of course, you lay claim to being the best in the world. But you know that's not true yet. You know that's not true. Because you haven't beat the best in the world. You haven't beaten me yet, Kurt.
Going into this match, I have a lot to gain. And I do have a lot to lose. I have a reputation.
He thinks my blood's a trophy.
I made Samoa Joe bleed. He knows deep down in his heart, he may be undefeated. But unless he beats Kurt Angle, he can never be in the top ranks of professional wrestling.
Kurt, for everything that you've accomplished, for everything that you are, there is no doubt, unarguably, you are a fierce and competitive warrior. There's no doubt that you don't know the meaning of the word quit.
I enjoy inflicting pain.
Nobody can hurt you like I can hurt you. For everything you have, for everything you train for, you can't train for me. You can't train for violence. You can't train for pain.
I want Samoa Joe to remember this match the rest of his career, not the rest of his life.
I am Samoa Joe, Kurt. I am undefeated in TNA wrestling. Kurt, you will be broken.
I mean, you want to talk about the Danielson Omega comparisons. Crowd chant, "This is awesome." The second, like, the bell rings, and they're standing across from each other.
The "This is awesome" chant was relatively new.
Well,
back then?
yeah, TNA had very much popularized it. Well, the TNA fans, certainly in 2003, 2004, had popularized it as becoming like part of their identity. It's not in WWE. It doesn't kind of translate to them for a few years yet. And that's mostly because they never did things that were awesome.
Yeah. I think, yeah, he comes out in his pajamas. Don't they look comfy? Doesn't his hoodie look really comfy?
Yeah.
Oh.
And look at, I wonder what he thinks of LAX.
Yeah. Petey's got it covered. Petey and Gail Kim can sort this one out.
Yeah, those good Americans, Petey Williams and Gail Kim.
I've got to beat the American territory of Samoa or whatever it is. What is it? Is American Samoa? That's different, isn't it? Samoa's different from American Samoa.
I've not blues clue, mate. You're the one who did the Anoa'i family tree.
Well, I'm actually basing this knowledge off the Taika Waititi film Next Girl Wins, which is in American Samoa, which is smaller and way further away. Anyway,
I just know the Samoa Joe is from the Isle of Samoa.
Yes. I think that might be different. I don't know. Geography. But
my favorite things about Samoa Joe, and one of the things he's truly proud of, is he's one of the only few Samoan wrestlers who's not related to the Anoa'i family.
But let's not bury the lead. How comfy does that hoodie look?
It does look comfy.
It's not the most threatening thing to come out in, is it? Here's my dressing gown to wear around the house.
The crowd chant, "This is awesome." And it is awesome.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. Angle gets busted open early after being sort of sent into the steps and the guardrail, and he starts bleeding a gusher.
Yeah, and it's like, you know how some people bleed different? Some people just have a waterfall of blood down their head. Angle has like spider leg drawings.
Yeah.
It looks like a crack. To be honest, it looks like the match graphics. Now I've said it.
I was going to say, it looks like what Serotonin would have as their makeup. He gets busted open. He tries to fire back, but Joe hits him with the power slam. Angle does the rolling Germans, but he doesn't quite hit the third one. Joe reverses the Angle slam with an arm drag, sets him up for the muscle buster, but Angle kicks out of that.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Like, no one kicks out the muscle buster.
This is awesome chants. Olympic slam, and Joe kicks out. Crowd chants for him to tap out as he gets the ankle lock in. Joe reverses into the clutch, brilliantly so as well, like drags him into the Kikina clutch. Angle then brilliantly gets the ankle lock to reverse that hold. Gets him in the ankle lock. Joe reverses and sends him into the turnbuckle. Joe charges into the turnbuckle. A third Olympic slam, another ankle lock, and Samoa Joe taps out.
Yeah. The crowd, actually, could we get the finish and just look at the crowd on the hard cam? Yeah. That is a wrestling audience that you don't see today. You might see it at indie shows for really, really, really big matches, but it's just like they are jumping up and down and it's sort of semi-moshing each other. Yeah.
Like this TNA crowd bloody love TNA.
Oh, look at it. Look at that ankle lock. Oh, Joe, he's going to do it. He's not tapped in 18 months. Oh, but he taps. Look at them. Everyone is so happy they've seen such an awesome historic thing happen, and that it met the expectations as well. Because I think it did. I know it didn't go super long, but that to me is a fine first match. Very fine.
Yeah.
When every time Kurt went for the ankle lock, I'm just screaming in my notes, grapevine. Why don't you just go for the grapevine on the first cut?
Because you need to lock it in. Like, you do the damage early doors, knowing you're not going to get the tap outs. But now the damage is done.
It's so cool when he locks, jumps down.
He drops into it as well. It's so good.
It's like, I think this is the finisher move. There's an extra finisher that gets unlocked.
So Dave Meltzer would give it 4.25 stars. Brian Alvarez, also 4.25 stars. Larry would say, great match, great atmosphere, and a ton of fun. These guys do have great chemistry already, and if they have a rematch, which they will do eventually, I think it can be even better. Some will question having Joe lose here, but the fact that he's losing to Kurt Angle is nothing to be ashamed of, and Joe was elevated to the common fan just by having a great match with Angle. 4.5 stars.
Yeah, I'd say with the build and the story and just the occasion, I'd definitely give it 4.5 stars.
I love this match. I think it's really, really good. I mean, it is surprising that it only goes 13 minutes, because again, in my head, it goes much longer than that. Like, this goes shorter than the Christian match. But we will get into that in a moment about why it might not have gone the full distance.
I'll just say one more thought about the match itself and the structure. Angle is worked over. Joe is like the monster heel, and it starts off with these exchanges of sort of potential wrestling holds, and Kurt's getting the better of him. And Kurt even walks away at one point, like, okay, let's go for another grapple. And you can see Joe just going, no, this isn't my turf.
Yeah.
And he just starts doing the strikes and being more violent. And it becomes this clash of wrestling styles.
Yeah.
Kurt is the technician and Joe is just this power monster.
Yeah.
And they're both at the very, very top of those respective styles. So which style is better? And yeah, Joe works over Kurt for most of it, but then Kurt makes a comeback. Only one comeback section, really, and wins. That's where a lot of the length of the longer main event matches come from, is you just get multiple ones of those comeback spots.
So it's interesting looking at the reaction to this from the time, the Observer and Figure 4, where they were like, it didn't meet the expectations that TNA set, and the fan feedback that they got to the match kind of reflect that this did not meet the expectations we thought this was going to. What about you? Do you think that it, bear in mind, match of the decade, that they were promoting this as like the big hype and build? It's Kurt Angle's first pay-per-view match in TNA, the first clash between these two.
It's so difficult a question to ask because I wasn't there at the time.
That's fair.
But from what I watched and sort of from what I remember, but a lot of what TNA is really, really good at hyping their own history.
Yeah.
Which is something I wish AEW would learn from them, because TNA is mostly crap. But if you watch a TNA show, you're like, oh my God, this is like, what a storied legacy they have. And they would mythologize this feud and series of matches like they mythologize Jeff Jarrett's legacy.
Yeah.
And I bought into it. For me, I think this is a great first match.
Me too.
But it's hard not to look at it as the first match, because we're doing this in a series of 4 or 5?
5. We've got 5 matches.
Like,
one of which is an Iron Man match.
Because if this was it, I'd have been like, oh, that's the one. But then the angle afterwards obviously shows that they're going to have a series.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not match of the decade, definitely. So, but I would never have bought into that marketing anyway. But I would be so excited for the follow-up matches.
Well, I do know what I thought of this at the time.
Here it is!
Because I have got my forum posts of what I thought of this match and this pay-per-view as a whole from 2006, from November 20th and 22nd and November 20th and 22nd, 2006.
We've had Meltzer. We've had Alvarez. We've had Larry Sonsker. Luke Owen.
So I do want to get some preface of
I want no context.
I do want to give some context. So there was so much discussion about this match on the forums leading into it, and it was all the same thing, which is Joe should win. Joe should win the first match. Kurt Angle gets nothing from winning this match. Samoa Joe and TNA get everything from winning this first match. So that was the only narrative that was going into this show. Kurt Angle should not win the first one. So, do you have any thoughts on that?
I can see both sides. I think Kurt Angle is a big enough star, and you've got a long-term feud planned for him with Joe. I'd presume so. I think Kurt is probably the right winner here.
I remember hoping that Joe won. Yeah. Really hoping that Joe won because, the forums would be happy and then everyone would be like, yeah, they made the right decision. But anyway, so I'd read through everything. I'd read through all the responses. A couple of days after, this happened on like November 19th. I didn't watch it until like a couple of days later.
Yeah, you wouldn't watch a TNA show
it was
when
hard for me to get. I had to download it off a torrent site.
I'd do it on the Wednesday evening when they just showed it alongside a normal episode on Bravo.
So, I posted on November 20th, 2006. From reading the spoilers, it didn't sound as bad as some of you guys are making it out to be. The only thing that disappointed me from the spoilers was, when I say spoilers, the results of like people talking about, because I've like read the forum posts of people like reviewing the show as it's going on. Because the way, if you weren't there at the time, you would just basically just leave a comment of like, that match was good, or what a spot that was. And then at the end, people would sort of like collate some of their thoughts together. The only thing that disappointed me from the spoilers was Shelley being jobbed out to Hoyt, but it does make sense in the long run to further the Nash-Shelley star storyline. LAX being stripped of the titles, stupid again, but if you were running a company and you were pissed off some Mexicans were threatening to burn American flags in the office, wouldn't you punish them? And jobbing Joe to Angle does anger me.
Jobbing Joe.
Oh no!
Joe was buried.
Joe was buried in here. Shelley being jobbed out to Hoyt. The fucking state of this. I've got 5 episodes of this because I'm leaving comments all the way up to 2008.
This is actually Luke's therapy to come to terms with the man he used to be.
Jobbing Joe to Angle does anger me. I will wait and see how it plays out. It could be good. And as someone mentioned, they don't want to burn out in the first match like HBK and Angle did. And look, everyone, Abyss is the champ. I like this because no one, in all caps, saw it coming. Pretty much all of us on here said he was going to lose. I think I meant lose. And it does continue from Sting's interview the other week on Impact, where he said he wanted to be an honorable champ. Just my thoughts. I'm going to watch the pay-per-view when I can get a hold of it, and I'll post my thoughts once I've watched it. So I then did watch it. I just watched the Angle Joe match, and to be honest, I can't see what everyone is bitching about.
Okay.
Sure, Angle won. I would have preferred Joe to win, but it took 2 Olympic slams and 3 attempts at the ankle lock to get the win. How does that make Joe look weak? But overall, the pay-per-view was a bit shit. The Saban Daniels match was quite good, and Cage and AJ was all right. Although I did like the comedy moments in the Paparazzi Killings and Hoyt match.
Luke did have good taste.
Yeah. I've clearly seen someone upset. I can see your point, but I disagree. So I don't know what they said. I didn't read a lot of people's on the post. I don't think this has made TNA or Joe look weak at all. Joe is not a multi-time champion, and neither is Abyss. And of course, Angle is of a higher caliber. TNA have been promoting him as the greatest wrestler in the world, so who else could have ended Joe's streak? I'm not defending TNA's decision. Believe me, I think it's a bad one, but I'm just saying that people on these forums are making a bigger deal out of it than it actually is. So I've read these. And again, I've read this after I've done the Smack Collision podcast, where I saw, I don't go on Twitter these days anymore, but after I've watched a show, I will go and see like what the general feeling of a show is, but I'm sort of like writing on my thoughts on it and stuff. And on Saturday, I did see what people thought of SmackDown because I knew I was going to be reviewing it on the Monday. And people were going off on this Naomi B. Priestley match, being like, oh, it's terrible. They've got no chemistry. It's absolutely garbage. And I watched the match and it's fine. It's so fine. Yeah. And I said on the Smack Collision show, I was like, you'd have thought, going by Twitter's reaction, it was the worst match of the year. And it was just okay. Same with the Nia Jax segment at the start of the show. So it's amazing here, 15 years later, fucking nothing has changed.
Wrestling fans gonna wrestle.
They really are. Yeah. So I did dive into the Wrestling Observer the week after to kind of see what this whole timing thing was about. So this is from the Observer. The Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe match at Genesis was booked to go 25 minutes, and Kurt had the option to go 30 if he thought it would make it better. A lot of people who were aware of this were shocked when it went home early, and to the best of our knowledge, no one has an explanation for it other than it was Angle's call when he called to go for the finish. Again, while Angle never gave an explanation, the consensus among the wrestlers is he got tired way early and called it, pointing to the fact that he had told Joe about a spot where he was going to give him 10 German suplexes. Going in, that was a big deal because Joe is such a big guy to do that spot with. On the third one, you can see him give out, and he didn't try the fourth, and pretty quickly, they went to the finish from there.
Huh.
As noted last week, everyone on the show was told to stay within their parameters and not go over because Angle and Joe wanted 30 minutes left for the main event. Or sorry, they being TNA, wanted 30 minutes left for Angle versus Joe because they were all aware everyone was buying for that match, and the idea was to produce the match of the year. Internally, the general feeling on the Thursday 2-hour special was it was a success because of the good matches and hot crowd. The Sunday reaction was about the same as the fan reaction, with more of a mixed bag. The feeling was they had told a lot of first-time viewers they needed a blow-away show. The undercard wasn't blow-away, but it really was the main event that was going to tell the story. The feeling was the LAX versus AMW wasn't what they hoped for. Austin Starr and Alex Shelley versus Ron Killings and Lance Hoyt fit into the same category. The main event disappointed people who were expecting match of the year, and in the company, several were disappointed simply because those who knew were expecting 25 minutes or more, and I think a lot of viewers at home were, but it didn't feel like it was a fact there was a plan. The Sting Abyss finish was botched and wasn't well received, but that was attributed to the botch.
The botch?
But they were surprised at the LAX title stripping.
Well, so you're going to tell me what the botch is?
We'll come on to that.
Okay.
But here, TNA were surprised at the LAX title stripping reaction. The booked plan for the Sting Abyss match was that Sting would throw Abyss into the barbed wire lace tables before the DQ, and the DQ would come immediately after, as Sting would have snapped and was going to throw Rudy Charles into the barbed wire as well.
Oh.
At that point, there would have been justification that you can't do that to the ref and a DQ is called. Instead, when Sting threw down Charles, Charles called for the bell. I don't know this to be the case, but it probably explains the hesitation in making the call about the title having changed after the bell rang because they were waiting for the ref to go to the barbed wire. But even with the issues underneath, the feeling was as long as the show was decent and Angle Joe would pull it out. It's amazing you can have a match that good and even people internally fear they disappointed their audience, and in some cases, they were right. That's almost a first because usually in wrestling promotions give average shows and convince themselves the shows were great that anyone disappointed are ungrateful. The only explanation is that Angle, despite his reputation in WWE of being the best conditioned wrestler in the business, after a several-month layoff, and this being his first super intense match since coming back, got tired or hurt, although he isn't saying anything to anyone about being hurt after the match. So that apparently is why the match went short, is that Angle got blown up and he realized, oh, I'm not in the right conditioning to do a 30-minute match. Let's go home now.
We could have done a 20.
Well, if you do the Germans, because
I think it's 15 minutes, the match.
13 minutes.
13 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's only 13 minutes, the match. It's shorter than the AJ cage match.
Yeah.
So I think that, it's meant to go 25. And Angle clearly, going by this, got to that, did those Germans, was like, I actually can't go another 12 minutes.
Interesting. And he won a medal with a broken neck.
Yeah.
He has done many superhuman feats of strength and sort of resilience and willpower. I'm surprised fatigue would be a factor for someone like Kurt Angle in 2006.
I guess it's like not being in the ring for, a few months. And it's just, that's the ring rust, maybe?
But he wrestled Abyss on Thursday.
Yeah, that's a short match. That match only went like 5 or so minutes.
Did it?
Yeah.
I thought it was like 10 minutes. I know, yeah, but still.
And it's not the same intensity as this Joe match is.
Yeah.
So apparently that's the reason why. Don't know if it's true. That's just, it's what the dirt sheets were writing at the time. I'm sure I had some thoughts about that on the Smart Marks forums. Jobbing out Joe.
I thought what was agreed as the best match of the year. So I've gone on Wrestling Observer, the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards for 2006.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess?
2006.
You can do the promotion.
Well, I'm trying to think of what's on the WrestleMania show that might have got that. And that is Joe Trips. It definitely won't be... John Trips. It won't be that. What is Angle's match at that show? Is that Angle for the world title? Is that the Rey Mysterio one? Yeah, it's the triple threat, so it won't be that either. Is it WWE or is it TNA?
No, it's the Wrestling Observer Newsletter
It's
Awards.
New Japan.
No.
Oh, Ring of Honor?
Yep. Ring of Honor.
Is it a Bryan Danielson match?
No, it isn't. I'll tell you because no one's ever going to get it. It's Dragon Kid, Ryo Saito, and Genki Horiguchi versus Shima, Masasoto Yoshuni, and Naruki Doi. That is a Super Card of Honor Ring of Honor match, yeah.
Yeah.
The previous year, though, was Kenta Kobashi versus Samoa Joe.
Yeah, which is like...
Ring of Honor.
That is an all-timer match. That is a match that a lot of people point to be like, that is a template for 5-star match.
In fact, I don't think TNA have ever won Match of the Year.
Well,
the WWE have.
The best chance they would have had would have been Unbreakable 2005 when they had the triple threat.
The triple threat, yeah.
But, that's also in the same year as the Joe match, so you can't really do that.
However, has Impact ever won Best Weekly TV Show?
I don't think it ever has.
2012!
In 2012? I mean, WWE was a bad show at that point, I guess.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's a default. Has it ever won Promotion of the Year?
No, I think it usually was one worst Promotion of the Year.
But the Wrestler of the Year... Oh, no, sorry, it's Promo for the Year.
Excuse me.
There's so many years. Most Outstanding Wrestler, 2005, Samoa Joe.
Absolutely well earned. It's amazing they did not put the belt on him.
I know.
They would actually be a while before they do put the world title on Samoa Joe.
And then Bryan Danielson will win it for the next 5 years straight.
So that is going to be, that's it for our episode. I mean, I've given you my thoughts from 2006. Now, nearly 20 years later, I do have slightly different thoughts on the show. I've got more nostalgic thoughts on the show now. Like I watched this show and I was transported back to like this period of time and this period of my life and this period of me being a wrestling fan and loving TNA and really enjoying a lot of like the undercard stuff they were doing and loving the tag division, loving the X division, not being like too worried about this Vince Russo thing that everyone keeps telling me is a bad thing. So I really, really enjoyed the show. I mean, I thought the show was shit apparently in 2006, but looking back on it now with some nostalgia goggles, I had a really fun time watching this show. I laughed so much when Mike today was so upset about Conan's promo, and then I laughed even more when he started doing the Chris Sabin stuff. I had a great time with this.
It's one of those periods in wrestling where I am into so many different wrestlers up and down the card. Yeah. Like this period, well, really 07 through to 2010 really for TNA, 2010 to 2012 Ring of Honor, 2019 to 2021 AEW. But just Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, Abyss, Sting, Team 3D, James Storm. Who am I missing here?
Chris Harris.
He's there. Kevin Nash doing funny things. Yeah. Mick Foley would come in soon.
Yeah, he's there next year, I think.
Yeah. I loved it. Loved it. I see all its flaws and I admit them. But
100%.
Really fun show to watch. I enjoyed this infinitely more than rewatching 2014 WWE.
Me too. And our next episode is the next pay-per-view. It is Turning Point 2006, the December show. The lineup for this, by the way. We have the Paparazzi Championship Series 5-man elimination. Jay Lethal, Austin Starr, Sonjay Dutt, Alex Shelley, and Senshi.
Okay, Loki.
We have Eric Young versus Tracy Brooks in a bikini contest. Christopher Daniels versus Chris Sabin for the X Division Championship with Jerry Lynn as the special guest referee. I was right. AJ versus Rhino. LAX versus AMW in a flag match.
That makes sense.
Abyss defending the title against Sting and Christian Cage.
Cool.
And the Samoa Joe Kurt Angle rematch.
We haven't done the angle at the end of the show. So Kurt wins.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Just to set
I thought
up.
we had covered that. Yeah, sorry.
Kurt wins. Joe gets a mic afterwards, and the crowd are chanting, "You tapped out." And Joe says, "Goddamn right, I tapped out. I can recognize Angle was the better man." Tenay also apologizes for Joe's language at this point.
I think he said "damn right."
Say "goddamn."
Yeah. It's blasphemous, right?
But Was that the thing that TNA didn't?
Well, no one swore on TV at this point, like in wrestling.
God damn.
Yeah. I mean, we say it on the show sometimes, and people get really annoyed at us in the comments.
Oh, wow. So weird, just that shot under SoCal Val's legs. And all the... Whoa, did you just say God damn?
Whoa.
Don't
Hold
take the Lord's
phone.
name in vain. And he says, if you're half the man I think you are, this is Joe, not Tenay, you'll give me a rematch. And Kurt doesn't shake Joe's hand. He goes like, "Thyke." No hair to stroke, just blood to smear over his head. And Angle walks out. And then I thought, and like Joe's staring at him and the crowd like, oh, I thought that was a really good cliffhanger. And then Joe just gets the mic back up and says, I guess we got to do this the hard way. I'm like, oh, I already figured that's what was going to happen. You didn't need to tell me.
the show's run early.
Yeah.
The show's run short. I'm just actually...
I guess we gotta do this the hard way.
I mean, what's the Stephanie McMahon thing from our previous show, our previous series?
What was it?
When she was talking about the Hell in a Cell thing.
When you'll do that, which means one of you is going to hell.
There is something I quickly wanted to double check because, I talk about how, am I right in here before I say this out loud? But let me just quickly double check.
No one melts tries to find his notes for G1 results.
I think I am right when I say this. So, our next episode will have Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe in the rematch, but they are going to also wrestle on TV in the lead up to that match.
Huh. So they have 6 matches overall?
Well, they have lots of matches, really.
Yeah,
we're doing the first 5 because that's like the iconic 5. But yeah, they will clash on TV in the lead up to it, and I think I do remember what happens.
Okay. Well, I actually can't wait.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I've got a feeling that I have remembered this correctly. But yeah, that is it for WrestleTalk Extra, where we are doing basically this one for us, where we're reviewing TNA. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next month on WrestleTalk Extra for Turning Point 2006. What do you think of Genesis 06? Let us know in the comments down below. You can watch it for free on YouTube. Till then, I've been Luke and DAD. That's been Ollie Davis. Jam that jam.